Good morning. Good morning, commissioners. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to day 2. I now reconvene the general session. Will the recording secretary please call the roll?
Brown.
Here.
Catherine Williams Brown.
Here.
Jose Cardenas.
Present.
Juan Cruz.
Here.
Christopher Davis.
Here.
Michael De La Torre.
Present.
Marisol De La Torre Escobedo.
Here.
Anna Marie Francois. Makita Gwynno Shire.
Present.
Megan Gross. Johanna Howick.
Present.
Susan Aradia. Terry Jackson.
Here.
Bonnie Clark.
Present.
Monica Martinez.
Here.
Shireen Powry.
Here.
David Simmons. Tina Sloan.
Here.
Kimberly White Smith.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Okay, I'd like to remind members of the public about the process to provide public comment. The committee chair will announce when the public comment period is open during the presentation of the agenda item and ask for anyone who wishes to comment to notify the meeting moderator. Individuals who attend the meeting at the commission office will need to submit a request to address the commission card to the meeting moderator. The meeting moderator will notify the individual when it's their turn to speak. At that time, the individual will be able to approach the microphone and share their comment. Individuals who join the meeting via the Zoom webcast will need to click on the raise hand icon to inform the meeting moderator that they'd like to speak on the item. The meeting moderator will notify the individual when it's their turn to speak by calling their Zoom ID. Please remember that the Zoom ID is the name used when logging into the meeting. At that time, you'll be prompted to unmute your microphone and you'll be able to share your comment. Please note the Zoom ID name used by the member of the public to join the Zoom meeting will be displayed to the public when the individual provides public comment. Individuals who join the meeting via the U.S. toll-free number will need to press *9 on their phone to inform the meeting moderator that they'd like to speak on the item. The moderator will notify the individual that it's their turn to speak by calling their phone number and will allow them to unmute their telephone. At that time, the individual will be prompted to press *6 and will be able to share their comment. Please note only a partial phone number will be displayed to the public when the individual provides public comment. All right, I now open the public hearing. The commission has one public hearing item before it today. Item 1H is the proposed regulations regarding options for meeting the subject matter competence requirement. David DeGeer will review the proposed amendments to the regulations and the response to the solicitation of public comment. Mr. DeGeer, please begin.
Good morning, commissioners. This public hearing on proposed additions to Title V of the California Code of Regulations is being held at the request of a member of the public. The 45-day comment period on the proposed regulations ended last week, and the request to hold the hearing was received before the end of the comment period. The Commission approved the text of the proposed new Section 80096 regarding the determination of subject matter competency at its June 2022 meeting. Staff have been working through the regulation promulgation process, which led to the required 45-day public comment period and now this public hearing.
All right, we will now open for public comment. Recording secretary, are there any public comments?
Green.
Please note you have 90 seconds for public comment. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Susan Green. I'm here on behalf of the California Faculty Association. And the California Faculty Association opposes the recommendation that is in today's proposed item 1H that's delineated in Appendix B. The inclusion of ethnic studies in the single subject area of social science does not adequately meet the need of the curriculum laid out in current legislation. Ethnic studies is an interdisciplinary field that is not covered adequately in the single subject area. Upon the adoption of AB 1460, the California State University Council for Ethnic Studies and the Academic Senate created core competencies used by all three segments of higher education, competencies that are based upon a half century of ethnic studies education, both in the pre-K-12 and higher ed settings. We recommend that the Commission undertake the type of standards construction developed for the ELA, the English Learner Assessment or Authorization, assembling support practitioners in the field. We reject the suggestion by some of the public commenters that the implementation of ethnic studies pre-K-12 is far off in the distance or solely political and ideological and not the province of trained ethnic studies faculty in the CSU. We urge the commission to adopt and take a look at the College Board. They are currently piloting the African American Studies AP course and examination for college credit, demonstrating that there are indeed ethnic studies standards available for implementation that go beyond single subject proposal provided here.
All right,
Thank
thank you.
Letitia Kim, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Thank you. Letitia Kim from San Francisco. I'm with the Foundation Against Intolerance and Racism. I'd like to thank you for your important work and for honoring FAIR's request for a hearing today. We ask that the regulation be pulled for further study by an advisory panel that conducts its meetings under the open meetings laws and runs conflict of interest checks on prospective advisors. But for now, we propose that the regulation should be revised to read that subject matter competency means the successful completion of the following major or degree, and in subsection B9, it should say, quote, for the single subject area of social science, a major in history, period. We have several reasons for this request. Number one, AB 130 does not allow the CTC to create new certificate subject areas. Two, AB 130 requires that the majors the CTC selects be specified. Three, ethnic studies is not a social sciences sub-area. Students can graduate with an ethnic studies degree without having taken classes in any of the 6 social science domains. Four, there are no K-12 ethnic studies standards yet. There is a model curriculum, but that is simply a guide. Underwhelming response last year. And finally, there's no rush to get this adopted. The approximately 100 California Public University ethnic studies major each year can still qualify to teach social studies if their transcripts show they completed coursework in the 6 domains. And the high school graduation requirement in AB 101 does not take effect until there's sufficient funding. Right now, there is no such funding, and it's unlikely to happen soon, given the sour economic outlook for California. Thank you so much for allowing me to comment.
Thank you.
Roxanne Miller, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Good morning. As Dean of the Atala College of Educational Studies at Chapman University in Orange, California, I'm writing to support the approval of content matter courses to substitute for demonstration of knowledge by subject matter testing. Doing so will help to diversify the teacher pipeline and increase the numbers of candidates entering the teaching profession. With that said, universities have deep concerns about the work being placed upon them with little oversight from the state to verify competency. Other states that verify coursework do so at the state level in the Department of Education to assure consistency and adherence to the expectations. No impact study on universities was performed prior to this proposal. My own university has already received numerous requests for reviews from members of the public, as well as our own students, with no additional staff or funding to assist. Further, we have already seen candidates receiving different answers regarding their competency from different universities, and sadly some, including those who have gone to for-profit institutions for their reviews, have been told by universities that they must take additional courses from them when it has been the opinion of others that the coursework taken already is sufficient. We respectfully request greater guidance from the CTC and consideration of the impacts on universities for this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kristen Van Gasbeck, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Good morning, Chair Sloan and Commission members. I'm a professor of economics at the California State University, Sacramento. I am also the director of the Liberal Studies and Social Science programs on my campus. I am also the vice chairperson of the Academic Preparation and Education Programs Committee of the Academic Senate of the California State University. Thank you for taking up the difficult work of implementation of Assembly Bill 130. I applaud the goal of expanding the pool of qualified teachers in California public education. I urge the Commission to consider the written public comments and those speaking against the expansion of additional majors to satisfy subject matter competency in multiple subjects and social science. The acceptance of a broader range of majors will increase the number of applicants to teacher credential programs, but it will not increase the number of applicants who are prepared to teach in the content areas for which they earn a credential. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
We have no additional requests for public comment.
What
Came in.
we have one more, did you say? Okay.
Yes. Marcy Strange, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Good morning. I am a parent in San Diego, a very active one at that. I don't have a whole list of degrees, but I will ask you this. If you've got an earache, are you going to go to a podiatrist, a foot doctor? No, you're not. If my kids are going to learn history, do we take them to ethnic studies? I don't think so. In other words, ethnic studies is already a requirement. I think we need to just keep it just to ethnic studies. And I want my kids to learn about when, Christopher Columbus or whomever discovered America. I want them to know World War II, times, dates, who, when, what, where, how, why. This is how we keep the fabric of America strong. I don't want it diluted by having other indoctrination possibly, or others' political beliefs infiltrating into our school as much as it already has. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there additional public comment?
Give it a moment. No additional requests for public comment.
All right. Mr. DeGeer, would you like to continue?
So written comments have also been received, and here's a summary of the issues raised in the written comments. There were comments in favor of identifying additional majors that qualify as meeting subject matter competence. For example, a major in mechanical or structural engineering meets the subject matter requirements for a single subject credential in physics. Comments were in opposition to mostly to a single section of the proposed regulations regarding majors that meet the subject matter competence for the single subject social studies credential. In addition to a major in history, this section has also identified ethnic studies or any other major with a focus on the study of one or more related ethnicities as meeting the subject matter requirement for the social sciences credential. Specific concerns include no major listed in this section would guarantee college mastery, let alone coursework, in all 6 domains of the social science subject matter requirements. Ethnic studies is merely a subset of history and social studies, and some majors do not require foundational courses in history. Individuals who hold a bachelor's degree in ethnic studies do not have the breadth of knowledge and training necessary to teach history and other areas of social science. Ethnic studies has a clear political agenda or ideological point of view, which should not be imposed on public school students. This change goes against the legislative intent of AB 101, which created the ethnic studies graduation requirement, as well as the governor's veto message on AB 331, because university ethnic studies courses are one-sided with content that was rejected by the State Board of Education. There was also concern raised about the inclusion of liberal arts and elementary education programs in the list of qualified majors for the multiple subject credential, because the existing subject matter requirements for that credential require interdisciplinary studies across a broad range of subjects that are not necessarily covered in liberal arts and elementary education majors. Finally, there were comments regarding the broader implementation of the coursework evaluation process created in AB 130, including that no funding was provided to approve programs to review transcripts, and they do not have the capacity to review transcripts for all individuals who have requested a review. There is inconsistency across programs regarding who at the institution reviews transcripts and the depth of coursework required by different reviewers. It would be helpful to have a central clearinghouse for courses that have been determined to meet one or more domains of the subject matter requirements. In closing, I want to clarify what is being done by this rulemaking package. The regulations do not include and will not require the creation of ethnic studies subject matter requirements. The regulations do not establish or endorse any curriculum for the teaching of ethnic studies in public schools or at the institutions of higher education. That is not within the Commission's authority. So the Commission has the following options regarding the proposed regulations. First, the Commission could reaffirm the vote taken in June 2022 and send the proposed regulation package as written to the Office of Administrative Law. Second, the Commission could amend the proposed regulations and send the amended regulations package to the Office of Administrative Law. Or third, the Commission could withdraw the proposed regulations package. And I am available to answer any questions commissioners may have.
Thank you, Mr. DeGeer. That was a very helpful summary. So commissioners, as I see it, we can have a general discussion about the item, but there was the three issues that Mr. DeGeer raised that we should probably be sure that we discuss. The first one has to do with which majors can be authorized for the history social science credential. The second one has to do with the same with multiple subject credential. And the third issue has to do with the transcript review process. Does that sound right? Okay. Why don't we then just start with the history, social science credential and the majors that are qualified for that. Commissioner Simmons?
I think for context, we need to remember why the domains are the way they are in the SMRs. I was on the panel 20 years ago when the single subject math credential was designed, when we switched from the, I've even forgotten the names of them, but it was the ETS product and an NES product. And when we moved from that over to the CSETs, the reason why the domains were designed the way they were was because we wanted to be able to minimize the number of tests that were taken by candidates and that was written by NES, so that it would be more financially advantageous for students so that they could get both the foundational level math and the full math credential. So we put the domains in such a way that they were tied really not for the purpose of establishing subject matter competence, because we knew that all the domains would have to be met for them to be able to get the credential. So because of the way that we're doing it now under the new legislation, I think it really would behoove us to relook at, and social science, there are subsumed areas within the social science credential which are not even in the SMRs. So you can teach AP psychology with a social science credential, even though when you take the CSET, there's no psychology in it. So I think it would behoove us to go back and look at all of the domains in all of the SMRs for so that we can look at them for this new purpose that they're requiring that we do. So given that, it seems to me maybe we should take a break and not look at social science maybe until we've had a chance to actually go through and figure out what the SMRs should be now that we have this new mission. And I even wonder if maybe foreshadowing our strategic planning discussion, that shouldn't be part of what we're going to be doing next year.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Simmons. It's helpful to get that foundation, and I'm just going to add to that with the foundation and ask Mr. DeGeer and others here at the table, what kinds of courses do candidates who have a history social science credential, what can they teach? What are the range of courses?
So that list of courses is outlined in a different section of administrative code. And the courses that someone with a social sciences credential can teach are American government, anthropology, contemporary issues, current issues, cultural studies, economics, ethnic studies, geography, government, history, humanities, international government, law, politics, psychology, sociology, United States history, and world history.
Thank you. It's quite a range. Commissioners, other comments or questions? Commissioner Greno-Shire?
I appreciate Commissioner Simmons' suggestion that we take a break and a pause and study this matter more closely as it relates to history and social studies. I worry that if we don't move forward with the regulatory package, it's going to hold up everything else. So, David, you identified 3 options for the commission. Is a 4th option to pull out this particular matter and to do further study?
So pulling out this particular matter would be amending the regulations.
Okay.
So that'd be number 2. And the commission could also direct staff to do further study.
Okay. I'm leaning towards that.
All right. Additional comments or questions with respect to the history social studies? So history social science. Okay, let's move to the area of multiple subjects credentials and the qualifications of the liberal studies major and the elementary majors. Comments, questions? Sorry, who had? Oh, Amari, sorry. Commissioner De La Torre. I hope I didn't miss you from earlier, but please.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I want to go back to the social studies item. I apologize. I was trying to find my hand and then I found my hand and so forth. But as a social science teacher here, I was an ethnic studies major. And I remember in my teacher credential program, my professor told me that I wasn't ready to teach all of the domains of social science. And I remember I got so defensive at this, but there was a lot of truth to his comment. I think when it comes to social science, as Commissioner Simmons stated, there are so many domains and it's complex in a way. But of course, with the further coursework and whatnot, I got there. But I want to say a few things. The first thing, I really want to recognize ethnic studies for the discipline that it is. It's come a long way. And I think also as we see ethnic studies play out in our, P12 classrooms, there's a lot of great stuff happening. And I think it really complements the social sciences and everything else that's happening in our schools. I would also support taking a pause here as we take a deep dive into the domains of the social science credential to really get this one right. And I think because we're trying to figure out ethnic studies in our classrooms out on the field, departments of education are also trying to figure out what the PD looks like. I know universities, are trying to really solidify what the majors look like. This is an opportunity for us to take a pause and really get this one right.
Thank you, Commissioner De La Torre. Commissioner Francois.
Thank you. Is this on? Thank you, Commissioner De La Torre. I really appreciated hearing from a social studies teacher who deals with the complexities of this on a day-to-day basis. And I agree with all 3 commissioners that have proposed that we put a pause on this because I think that we just don't know enough. And if you think about all the activity in the state of California around ethnic studies, some of it conflicting, what goes on in K-12 schools, what goes on in universities, the political maneuvers that are being made in the name of or for or against ethnic studies, I feel like this decision is too important for K-12 students for us to just kind of, my dad used to say, we can either go fast or we can do it right. And doing it right was always the best way to go. And that takes a little bit longer. But I also didn't want to close this item or go to a vote or do anything like that before making a comment about my concern in so many of the conversations that I've had, the written comments that I've heard, and some of the public comment, the presentation. You know, when we use words like indoctrination, political agenda, ideological point of view, it's become very inflammatory in this country. And I would say to you that we should set aside the language that polarizes us, and we need to figure out with intentionality and really depth of thought, what does ethnic studies mean? How is it integrated and not integrated into our K-12 curriculum, and therefore should be represented in the standards that the commission developed? And as I'm reading through the domains, and I believe this is right, Mr. DeGoy, I'm not sure, for social studies, it said world history, US history, California history, principles of American democracy, principles of economics, and principles of geography, correct? I cannot envision an ethnic studies curriculum that does not take into account all of those things. The thing that's, for me, that separates that is the elephant in the room is that currently in the public school system, we do look at each one of those domains from a particular point of view. And it is not necessarily inclusive of the lived histories and experiences of minoritized young people and their families in this country. We are in a very different time. The minority has become the majority in this state. And so for us to, for the public, for this commission, and for LEAs and universities not to take up with intentionality how the histories of the families in the state are represented in the curriculum in intentional ways, for me, is we're not living up to our obligation as educators. And so all of that is to say that I support my commissioners in, and I would ask that you all who are voting members consider pausing and let's do some real learning about this, not some superficial learning. Let's do some real learning. Let's listen to different points of view around ethnic studies and curriculum development and social science. And let's not just stop at ethnic studies. Let's look at the social studies curriculum at large and find out where there are points of integration, as well as points of standalone kind of curriculum. So thank you. I know that was a long commentary, but this is way too important for our state to go fast. Let's go smart and right.
Thank you, Commissioner Francois. And Marisol, I'm sorry, it's Commissioner De La Torre Escobedo. I was thinking of one thing and just read your screen. So I know your name. Okay. All right, Commissioner Davis.
And again, I want to echo what has been mentioned in the room today. Good morning, by the way. A pause seems apropos at the moment because we need to, I think, come together and have a common understanding of how we'd like to move forward. And I don't know that everybody has a grounding in what ethnic studies is. I'm an ethnic studies major from LA State and also a dual English major. So I have some experience in the coursework with the syllabi, with the professors. And I like what Commissioner Francois said about needing a definition of ethnic studies, and I'm going to give one right now. I'm an English teacher, so what is ethnic studies but a field that covers the historical, social, economic, and political perspectives of African Americans, Native Native Americans, Asian Americans, and Latino Americans. It's a discipline that comes from, quote, examining shared community strife. And that's a quote from Melina Abdullah, professor of Pan-African Studies at LA State. The foundations of ethnic studies were laid by members of San Francisco State's Black Student Union in the mid-1960s, at a time where minority students just made up about 4% of the total student body at the university, and they've been resisting appeals for the creation of a Black Studies department at the university. So, lacking political power, that same BSU started to demand admission spots for Black students and courses that would accurately reflect their history. Their struggles were built upon the struggles of generations of people before them. With their wisdom and activism came progress, and ethnic studies programs became normal fixtures on campuses of higher learning across the state. So as an undergraduate, I learned about literature, art, economics, governments, and the contributions of people who look like me. Not only was there a more inclusive story told in these classes, but the inclusion of BIPOC folks, where we were excluded from nearly every other textbook and course on campus, especially in the social studies department, where I yearned to see more representation, in my mind necessitated a dramatic shift in education to include everyone. Now, while ethnic studies is not the cure for thousands of years of privilege served up in a flawed and often one-sided social studies curricula, it is a step in the right direction. And it's a direction that we as a collective community of educators need to embrace. It is one of many equalizers that will help close the achievement gap. If students are included and represented in the curriculum, they perform better on standardized tests, assessments, and their academic achievement soars. Danielle Drellweger writes in their article, Ninth Grade Ethnic Studies Help Students for Years. Stanford researchers find that students assigned to an ethnic studies course had long-term improvements in attendance, graduation rates, and these are people who had been exposed to the ethnic studies courses offered in the San Francisco Unified School District. This is one of many studies done on the impact of ethnic studies on the achievements of our students in the state of California. In an article entitled Ethnic Studies Increases Student Engagement in High School Graduation, Targeting Ninth Graders, Key to Program Success, published by the University of Massachusetts Amherst, new research from UMass Amherst shows that enrolling ninth graders who are struggling academically in ethnic studies courses greatly improves the likelihood those students will graduate from high school and enroll in college. Countless numbers of scholarly works have been produced showing the correlation between academic achievement of our students, especially our BIPOC students, and inspire educational fortitude and stamina to continue their studies in institutions of higher learning. It has been stated in the comments that ethnic studies at the university level imposes a specific ideological point of view, which is an inappropriate frame of reference for 7th to 12th grade history and social sciences. Well, I'm here to say that every social studies course I've ever taken has posited a specific ideological European, Eurocentric perspective where the colonizers were represented and perceived as the victor of battle and conflict over entire civilizations of people. Speaking of ideological points of view, all of the people that they've conquered were ignored in those situations. Everyone else was erased from the pages only to reappear for a page or two to discuss slavery, the Trail of Tears, or the Chinese Exclusion Act. Now, as a freshman in college, I learned that my ancestors did not just magically teleport into specific historical times, serving as static characters in the colonizers' relentless pursuit to tell one story from one perspective. I learned through ethnic studies that we are here and always have been, even if we were never written into the stories told in classrooms. It has also been stated in the comments that ethnic studies majors are not prepared by their coursework to teach 7th to 12th grade history and social sciences. There is no statement that is further from the truth, and in agreement with Commissioner Francois, I not only, and also Commissioner De La Torre Escobedo, I not only know from personal experience, I also know from course curricula and syllabi from our California community colleges, our UC campuses, as well as our private institutions of learning, of course, LA State, our state universities, that there is much more robust and inclusive history being taught in these classes than is being characterized in the aforementioned statement in the comments. In order to teach about people of color and their representation in the history, you have to reteach the same events that are being taught in the mainstream history classes. You're teaching about the same people, the same events, etc., and include the rest of us that were excluded in the first place. It is preposterous to think that this would exclude a teacher from teaching the subject matter. I believe this qualifies the practitioner beyond what is essentially required now of classroom teachers. And finally, in the comments, it's been stated that proposed ed code changes goes against AB 101's legislative intent, characterizing ethnic studies model curriculum as offensive and one-sided. Well, the attack upon ethnic studies is offensive and one-sided, and it has its origin in white supremacy and privilege. The irony here is incredibly hypocritical. The very nature of this attempted attack upon the idea of teaching ethnic studies and creating propaganda like fear-mongering around teaching an inclusive curriculum is historically repetitive. As long as I have a seat at this table, I'm going to try my best to help educate the public and will work for this not to be repeated again. Racism in our policymaking and deliberations will not be tolerated here at this table, nor given cadence when it comes to what is best for the children of the state of California. Not only is it un-American, to hear some of the comments and read some of the comments is very disheartening and disgusting. It comes from a place of ignorance of the plight and the positions of the historically ignored and downtrodden folks of color. I want to humbly remind the authors of these comments that no teacher has ever walked out of an undergraduate program and was 100% prepared to teach. The desire is there. That is why we have TPAs and TPEs and performance standards. We set standards to create the best possible education and workforce here in this country, right here in this state. That is not done with pluralistic ideology in mind, but is done by bringing stakeholders to the table to make improvements to the flaws that are identified in an already vetted and established successful system. In conclusion, I'm a conduit of information here, and I have a voice and a seat at this table. For students like Mariana Kame, a junior at San Diego State University and a student trustee who advocated for AB 1460, the bill's passage reflects that, quote, students have been fighting for decades. As a student representative, she hopes that she has been able to convey how impactful ethnic studies has been, not just for her and her peers, but for all generations of students who have come before her as well. And I'd like to just end my comments, and I apologize for the length of it, but I think the passion is worthy. I wrote a poem once. I write a lot of these, but this particular one, I want to read a stanza from. The poem is called The Struggle. And I say, who's down for the struggle? Who's standing up, fist in the air, upright, militant? Who's standing up? Injustice is right there in front of you. Who's down for the struggle to keep struggling? Our forefathers did not create us to struggle as much as we do. Who is going to be the first in the picket line? You, or you? We have an opportunity at this table with this discussion and furthering this discussion a little later down the road to be those change makers, to be the innovators, to be the blueprint and the map for which the rest of this country follows with this policy. And I think if we can get this through and we can clap back at the naysayers who believe that this is somehow going to infiltrate their plot to continue that Eurocentric idea that the world exists from some dead white guys conquering civilizations of people of color. This is a new day. And I think that we are going to do a great job of this because we have the greatest, most diverse group on this commission right now. And I think we have the minds and the fortitude to do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. That was just incredibly helpful. Incredibly helpful. Commissioner Simmons.
I was going to make a motion. And help me with this because Title V regulations is always confusing. I would like to move that we accept or approve, whatever the verb is that we should use, Title V 80096B, with the exception of 80096B9, and that we accept 80096A, but that we direct staff to review the domains of all the single subject areas covered, all of the domains within the subject matter requirements of the single subject areas in a reasonable amount of time.
Commissioner, we have a... Okay, thank you. We have a motion on the table by Commissioner Simmons, seconded by Commissioner Heredia. I'm going to take this opportunity just to summarize where I think we are on this piece, if that's all right. What I am hearing at the table is that with respect to technicalities, our SMRs were based on developing subject matter domains for the purpose of developing exams, that we have an opportunity now to develop subject matter domains based on something different, based on whatever that might be, what a candidate should know and be able to do and understand prior to going into a teacher preparation program. So that's one thing. The second issue on the table is the complexity of the history social science domain, both in the range of subject matter knowledge that it covers and in the range of courses that it's authorized, that candidates who hold that credential are authorized to teach. The third thing I am hearing is we have an opportunity to take up something new with intentionality. We have an opportunity to set aside polarizing language. We have an opportunity to do real learning, and learning that listens to different points of view, learning that learns what ethnic studies curriculums are all about, learning that will help us look at the social studies curriculum and area at large, the whole thing, and innovate in terms of what we expect new teachers to know and be able to do if they go in and teach kids about history and social science and all of the things that this credential authorizes a teacher to teach. And we have commissioners at this table who can do that. And we have an opportunity at this table to do that. So this is where I think, this is my summary where I think we are at the moment. And therefore, if we advise the commission to take these two majors out of this package of regulations at the moment and create a process for studying and innovating and rewriting, then we're going to be in a much better place. We're not going to go fast, but we're going to do it well. Right? Okay. Other commissioners' comments? Commissioner Brown.
As someone who learned inadequately the history of this country and who didn't learn enough about anyone that looked any differently than I did, it seems to me that our story needs to be inclusive of the lived experiences of all our people, and that the social studies is the study of social groups. I think that this commission needs a grounding, a joint grounding experience to do the next thing right. We want our teachers to be the people that see the world as it really is and as it's been, and build a better world with a stronger foundation. I think it's really important to recognize what we've heard today and use this as a guide to further our study. To pause now and thank you, Anna Marie and Christopher and David and Tina and Marisol for helping us find the right next way. We need to do the right next step because education is transforming lives and we need to have the base in order to do that. That's what I think.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. Commissioner Heredia?
So when you've been a teacher for a long time, look at Jerry, because I was too, you see things that come back, you know, and when you're a new teacher, people say, oh, we did that 20 years ago or 10 years ago or whatever. So I feel like I'm back at the point where I was when I was when I was a student who graduated with a bilingual credential, and I had to fight to even keep the topic of bilingual education on the table, and I had to fight to keep it in the school system in which I taught. So and ethnic studies was really, if you go back to that time, ethnic studies really was a part of bilingual education. You taught about two different cultures primarily, but you also taught a lot about other cultures. And so when this agenda item came up, I was excited in one part, and I was distressed. I was distressed by the public, by the public comments, and I was distressed by the misperceptions. And I feel like as an educator, I am still, after so many years, fighting misperceptions about the rights and the needs of children, of all children, no matter what the situation would be. I look forward, I look forward to having this discussion with all of you around the table about what is history. I was surprised that social science. I was surprised, David, when you said that someone with a social science degree could teach ethnic studies. But yet, if you have ethnic studies, you can't teach history. I mean, I look forward to that discussion because, at face value, we're thinking, well, why not? Why not? What is the difference? But I look forward to teasing out the coursework in the domains and looking at it, to come to an intelligent decision about this. So once again, I feel like I'm back to step one, where I was so many years ago of fighting for something that I, to my core, I believe, and I feel like I have a moral obligation to make sure that kids feel as they are representative in a course, in a class, and that is acknowledged. Because you've got too many stories around this table in which that did not happen for us. And we are now still fighting to make that happen. So look forward to all of it, working with all of you at this table. And David, I thank you for listening to me, and thank you for helping us to find a way with all the numbers that you do so well. I just so anyway, just want to say thank you to everybody.
Thank you, Commissioner Heredia. We have Commissioner Pabry and Commissioner Clark.
Thank you. Good morning. I just want to say I'm really proud to serve on this commission with the passionate, thoughtful folk around the table, the staff, as well as the commitment of the commissioners here, and really look forward to this opportunity for us to collaboratively get together with expert opinions and points of view to get this right. So I am absolutely looking forward to this work, and it's integrally important for our young people in the state. My full support for pulling that out.
Thank you. Agree. Commissioner Clapp.
Thank you, and agreed. I mean, this discussion has been so powerful this morning. As an English teacher, a single subject English teacher, I also just want to say, as we're thinking about what we can do, that ethnic studies could be taught in an English department. It could be taught in an art department. It could be taught in so many ways as we're envisioning this, and thinking about student liaison Tran yesterday said something about her program being this exceptional program, and she wished that it was just average and everyone had it. But this idea that what we're talking about shouldn't just be social studies, where we're bringing in perspectives of all of our students and learning, and all of us are learning about all these perspectives. But this should be in English classes, it should be in art classes, it should be in science classes. That we talked about a common trunk for an entirely different set of discussions, but this idea that ideally this should be the common trunk. And so I'm looking forward to, it sounds like we're prioritizing this and saying we need to really talk about this for social science, but I'm hoping that discussion also can inform our other subject matters also, because it's like, as an English teacher, I think it's just as important in English as it might be in social studies. So I'm very much looking forward to continuing to learn and to listen to the discussion that we will have.
Commissioner Francois.
I really appreciate that comment. And I just wanted to mention that as a result of the ethnic studies as a graduation requirement, the adoption of ethnic studies within the CSUs, the UCs, et cetera, there are actually quite a few really good examples of professional development across the content areas, taking an ethnic studies lens to reading, English language arts, music, art, as you said. And when you said that, what struck me was the field is moving in that way. This commission has a responsibility then also to move and to think deeply about how our expectations around subject matter competency, around our standards for the teaching profession reflect that approach as well, that we cannot turn a blind eye to what's actually happening with or without us.
Okay. Agreed. Thank you. Sorry. Commissioner Cardenas?
Good morning, everybody. I really appreciate everyone's comments. Commissioner Davis, thank you for your comments. I'm sitting here thinking about just my first meeting that I came to, and I believe it was a strategic planning meeting. And we talked about DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. Talked about how to build this pipeline of new teacher candidates. And I think through the pandemic, we've learned that it can't just be examinations, right? We have to have other options and opportunities to bring our students in, especially our candidates of color, to come into this profession to represent the students of California. And so I think about, how do we open up this pipeline? How do we continue to diversify our teacher workforce? And this was just one opportunity or another option that our students could meet subject matter to go into a to go into a program. They go into a program and they learn how to become better, the best educators that we can have in the state of California. Ethnic studies, I'm a benefactor of that as well. I took several courses. It wasn't my exact major because I was an interdisciplinary studies major. So I combined all of them. I was able to integrate it into my profession of counseling, of school counseling. I will tell you that in the position or capacity that I'm in, working with various students, staff, it has only enhanced my profession or my ability to work with others. So I know for teachers, this will only enhance the way they approach students. One who also built master schedules and would see my social science department can teach psychology. And I start to ask them, how many classes in psychology did you take? Maybe one, right? So I think about how we still are our old model has empowered other credential holders to teach subject matter that they may not be even capable of teaching, but yet we hesitate to allow someone with ethnic studies background to come in and teach. I think that's my only question, why we hesitate for that subject matter itself, when we know that it can only enhance our profession by having various perspectives. And so I know we want to take a pause and we want to do it right. But I will tell you that there are generations of students who have had to wait. I will tell you that this new generation, they're not going to wait. They're tired of waiting. I will tell you from experiences of my own students. In 7th grade, they get same history as in 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade. And then we wonder why people don't want to go into education. Right? We've turned them off. And I've seen the light bulb turn on students when they get just a little glimpse of this. How empowered they feel, how special they feel, how they want to go into education, how they want to help out our profession. So I just question our pause. I'm not against it. I do want to do things right. But how long have we paused? For how many years and how many generations have we impacted? But we have an opportunity right in front of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cardenas. Commissioner Greta-Shire.
I appreciate all the comments of my colleagues, and it reminds me of Chris and I were talking on the way over here today that I don't think the public understands the work of the commission and the deep thinking that this group of people does every time we sit around this table. So,
Commissioner Greta-Shire, can you speak a little louder? The
Sure.
audience can't hear you.
Sure. So I'm compelled by all the comments to take a pause to do this right. But Commissioner Cardenas reminds us of the urgency of this work. So can we do both? Can we ask the staff to come back in a shorter amount of time? Because I know I've sat around this table and we've said, can the staff come back? And then sometimes we put a date on it, but sometimes we don't. So given the urgency that I'm feeling, can we bracket this work? Can we say, what is this, December 2021, by June 22, June 23, we're going to have study sessions, we're going to come back, we're going to make a decision, or March. I don't know what the right time frame is. I don't want to impact the staff more than they already impacted. But I too said that sense of urgency, but I want to get it right. I want to get it right this time.
So I also appreciate both Commissioner Cardenas and Greta-Shire for let's put some brackets around what this work is. We could take the time to completely transform our subject matter, the way we think about it, what it is, what the standards are, and that will take some time. So are there shorter steps in between? And at the very least in January, can we have a summary of where the processes that could happen and can start to happen in order to do it right, and what we could do along the way, and who should be brought in the multiple perspectives in that process? Could be February. What's our next commission meeting? February. The other thing I will remind us all of is that we do have a process still for the transcript review for ensuring that candidates with ethnic studies majors are meeting the SMRs as they can't stand currently. It is also, though, that we're saying those SMRs need to change. So I'm going to go to Commissioner De la Torre Escobedo first, and then I'm going to come back with again where I think we are. Commissioner De La Torre Escobedo.
Thank you, Madam Chair Sloan. I just wanted to add one thing. I appreciate this conversation so much. And I love that we're having this conversation. But I also want to add, I want everybody to recognize just how much hope I have too. I really think, we are at a different step one right now. We're at a different type of pause where, 15, 18 years ago, if I wanted to bring something inclusive into my classroom, it was questioned all over the place. And now it may be questioned, but I have so much backup. And, I'm teaching ethnic studies right now, and I wish I can bring you all to my classroom so you can see, what's happening. So we're at a different place right now. It's urgent. We're going to take a pause, but we're going to get things moving to get this right. So I just wanted to add in my little plug of hope here for everybody to recognize what's happening out in the field and across our state, because it's pretty incredible.
Commissioner Grashire.
Could I ask also, and I know when we engage in the strategic planning conversation, we're going to return to this, but we don't want to forget our commitment to review DEI standards for all programs. And I think that's part of this conversation as well.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So we are luckily in a place of strategic planning for all of our work. And this is a good time to be looking at all of our subject matter standards, across the board. We have worked for a while now at this commission to see all of the ways that we can ensure that the pathways are open for new teachers, especially new teachers of color, to come in and be supported and not experience barriers that would keep them out of the profession. And we have to keep figuring that out and keep working on that. But we have created some lanes that I hope are going to work better in the interim. And there are things that have changed, as Commissioner De La Torre Escobedo has said, that weren't there when she first started teaching. So we want to do this work for all of our subject matter domains. In the meantime, there is legislation that says there are majors, and in a nutshell, the majors titles that meet the title of the credential should meet the subject matter requirements for that credential. With that legislation, the commission has had to navigate all of the work and the issues that come out of that. And this is one of the things that we are talking about today. The silver lining is it's making us rethink what it is that we want to be sure that teachers have in their background before coming into teaching. And we can change what we're doing right now in really transformative ways. That's exciting. And there's hope. What I want to be sure I understand then in terms of where we are right now with what's on the table. We have a motion, and it is specifically related to amending the regulatory package around the history, social science credential and the majors that can or cannot suffice for that. And I believe the motion says at this moment in time, we will not approve any of the majors to count for the history, social science as they stand at the moment, but that we are going to study the SMRs, we're going to reshape those, and we're going to come back with a recommendation on the majors. Is that where we are? Is that what the content is, David, of your motion? Yeah. All right. What I also need us to understand is this the end of our motion and then the regulatory package is sent forward, or are we still going to discuss the multiple subject credential as well? Commissioner Simmons and then Commissioner Gradishire.
Well, I think that you had, and I don't know if it has to be a motion, but I think you had a friendly amendment about coming back in January with a plan
Uh-huh.
for whether it's a work group or a panel or whatever.
Okay,
to-
thank you. That we add staff direction will be added to the motion. So your Commissioner Simmons, you're amending your motion to include staff direction?
I am.
And Commissioner Heredia, do you second that? Okay, thank you. All right, so right now it's an amendment, but it's not an amendment that includes moving the regulatory package forward, or does it? It does, okay. So before we vote on this, do we want to discuss the multiple subject credential? Commissioner Gradishire, my apologies, your turn.
I think I would like to discuss the multiple subject credential as well as the transcript review process. I think we need, I want to discuss the multiple subject credential and the transcript review process as part of this.
Yes.
I don't know if it's part of the motion or it may be a second motion and a third motion, but it's part of moving the whole regulatory package forward, correct?
My motion was limited to A and B.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so maybe we could finish that and then move to multiple subject.
Right. So that is, that's why I wondered about moving the regulatory package forward. So is the process that we can vote on amendments and then at the end vote on, now that we have these amendments, we're going to move it forward?
I don't think you need to do it as two separate motions. I think you can do it in one. And then
Okay.
the process from here would be, since the commission would be amending the proposed regulations, we would need to file a new 15-day notice to the public that these proposed regulations have been changed, and they would have 15 days to comment on these changes.
Okay. And then the package can be moved forward? Yeah.
And then after that time, then we would review the comments and send the package on to the Office of Administrative Law.
Okay. So in terms of our process, we have a motion on the table. If we decide to amend it further based on the rest of our discussion, we can. So why don't we hold off on voting? Director Sandy?
I just want to offer, I think, a clean procedural process here for getting this would be to actually act on the reg package as an action just related to the language in these regs. In other words, to move the package with the exceptions that you've identified, social studies, and if you decide to hold back multiple subject as well, you would hold that back. And just take a motion to move the package with whatever amendments you propose, and then following that motion, identify staff direction for next steps that you'd like us to take.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to, the issue of transcript review comes up over and over again. It's part of a discussion. It's not part of this regulatory package, but we should discuss it. So with respect to the regulatory package, what would be in this would be if there are any changes that commissioners want with respect to the multiple subjects credential. Let's discuss that now. Questions, comments from commissioners? Commissioner Simmons?
Isn't it a matter of legislation that 1 and 2 at least we have to do anyway? So I don't know that we can have a whole lot other than to implement it.
Could you describe, or could you explain what you're saying specifically for the multiple subjects?
Wasn't a degree in liberal studies part of the bill that says that we have to accept that?
Okay.
Yes, the liberal studies major is identified in education code as meeting the subject matter requirements for the multiple subject. And the regulations propose adding a liberal arts, a major called liberal arts, or a major called elementary education, as also meeting the subject matter requirements for multiple subject.
So I think we are required to do 80096C1. And I think that I don't think that candidates should be held back by the arbitrary nomenclature of their particular IHE. So for me, adding 2 is kind of a no-brainer. And then for 3 would be very helpful for our out-of-state candidates, many of whom have degrees in elementary education and then have trouble getting their California credentials.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Commissioner Granishire.
David, can you, I'm troubled a little bit about a liberal arts degree. Liberal studies is really clear, but liberal arts is all over the place. So can you help me to understand why that might be a good idea?
So in meeting with the cooperative work group on this, the feedback that we got was when participants had reviewed transcripts in with liberal arts majors and with elementary education majors, they saw coursework in all of the 8 areas for multiple subject. And one of the reasons for including majors is once someone at the preparation program sees the major, they don't have to do the further coursework analysis, which saves an incredible amount of time and angst. Because it also makes it clear for candidates, all right, I have this major, therefore I do not have to take CSAT.
Commissioner Pabry.
So I also wanted to follow up on where we stand with the child development majors as meeting the multiple subject matter.
Yeah, that we are still reviewing. We wanted to, so we did get an analysis from CSU or San Luis Obispo. What Cal Poly's San Luis Obispo? Thank you. Or Pomona, thank you. And we're still reviewing that, but we also want to get some other child development majors so that we're not just looking at 1 or 2, because that was some of the feedback in the comments, I think, on this item, that majors vary from institution to institution.
Okay. Other commissioner comments, questions? So what I'm hearing is from Commissioner Simmons that the liberal studies major is already a part of the legislative package, and that the elementary education majors are something that we want to keep for a lot of good reasons that he cited. Candidates out of state, the nomenclature, the way that the major is named. So if my understanding then is that we can vote on the amendment that is on the table, or the motion that's on the table, which makes the one amendment and then moves the package forward. Is there any further comments or discussion? Commissioner?
I just have a clarifying question.
Yes.
So we're not looking to amend the liberal arts, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Unless, okay. All right, recording secretary, I think we can call for the vote.
Ed Brown.
Aye.
Jose Cardenas.
Aye.
Juan Cruz.
Aye.
Christopher Davis.
Aye.
Michael Del Torre.
Aye.
Marisol Del Torre Escobedo.
Aye.
Makita Granishire.
Aye.
Johanna Howitt.
Aye.
Susan Aradia.
Aye.
Terry Jackson.
Aye.
Bonnie Clark.
Aye.
Monica Martinez.
Aye.
David Simmons.
Aye.
Tina Sloan.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Commissioners, thank you. When I said yesterday morning that this commission is in good hands, this just reinforced it once again, and I'm going to miss you all. But I'm going to follow this discussion because I'm looking forward to seeing what you're going to do. And this is very exciting for the state of California. Thank you, Mr. DeGear. Oh, transcript review. My apologies. I was just so excited
Go
about.
for it, David.
All right. So the transcript review process is problematic, and it's come up before. We know it. I don't know that we have any solutions. So I'd like to hear what commissioners think we need, what our possibilities are in terms of what we as a commission might do to help and facilitate, support this process. Ideas? Commissioner Pabry.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing this up. It is a really large issue, I think, for all of our higher education institutions. I don't need to belabor the point in terms of the workload it's generated and in terms of the inconsistencies to our students across the state of California. But I wonder, as the transcripts are being reviewed, I really do like this idea of a common repository where all of the course, equivalents will be listed, and I urge us to move in that direction as soon as we can. But I also do think that our institutions need further guidance on the level of depth of review. When we look at a course, it takes almost 20 minutes sometimes to review each course in that mix and match transcript review process. And the content may be addressed at a superficial level. In some cases, it may be at an in-depth level. And I think that's where further guidance to the field will be incredibly helpful as well, because that's part of the reason, I think, for the inconsistency, and creates a lot of frustration for students, for reviewers, because we really don't know if what we're doing is meeting the intended mandate. So I really do think there's need for guidance. And I know you have been doing office hours, and you're probably getting a lot of questions from that. So it may be that those repeated questions that come up are the source for the guidance that needs to be generated from the commission. I'd like to know what those questions are. Maybe those could be brought to us, and then we see how to move forward.
So we have not received that many questions lately regarding subject matter competence. And, one of the ideas that was brought up in the written comments, and I think again during the oral comments today, was in other states, the state does it. So the commission is not authorized to approve certain courses as meeting subject matter domains. Only preparation programs are authorized to do that. So because that is in the authority of preparation programs, we are hesitant to give them guidance as to how that should work. We've added in this regulations package some of the common requirements that we have for coursework, that it be C or higher, that it be from a regionally accredited college or university, that it be non-remedial. So those are kind of the baselines that we have for all coursework. But then in terms of what a program should do, how deep they should look, if the commission doesn't have the authority to determine which courses meet domains, we're trying to walk a fine line and not try to take that over from preparation programs.
Go ahead.
Going to just augment that and say that that's correct. The way AB 130 was constructed legislatively, the discretion lies with preparation programs to determine whether a transcript has courses that meet the SMRs. But we've been discussing this since AB 130 was signed about how can we help the field and work with the field. And I think we have some ideas about the structure and organization of the SMRs could be improved in ways that support the field in doing this, and could address within that some level of depth just in the definition of the SMR domains. The way an SMRs, those are subject matter requirements, in case there's anybody at the table who doesn't remember what SMR stands for the subject matter requirement for a credential you may be seeking. And they're organized by chapters, which we call domains. And then under each domain, there's a long list of specific things that could be included. AB 130 expressly stopped at the level of domain and does not require the review to go all the way into the deep singular SMRs. that are identified within each chapter. But the domains themselves were never designed or defined with this view or with this activity in mind. So we would like to, if, with your indulgence, include in our plan that we present to you, a plan for strengthening the SMRs overall to support this work and to explore ways in which a state repository could be established. And that with a key difference, the CTC was not given the authority in this statute to review and evaluate which courses should count. So the extent to which we contribute to establishing a clearinghouse, it has to be understood that the CTC has not reviewed, vetted, or approved any of these courses, right? That'll be a critical part of how we move this forward. But we've been working to try to ideate around this to see how we can provide more support to the field.
And one of our ideas is that the institution that offers the course is best equipped to determine whether or not it meets one or more domains.
Okay, so we have Commissioner Grenishire. Nope. Okay, Commissioner Heredia. Nope. Okay, Commissioner Simmons. I'm sorry. Oh, and Commissioner White-Smith. Thank you. So Commissioner Simmons, and then
I really like the idea of re-looking at the domains. I hesitate to have a clearinghouse because it's never up to date. And I remember years ago when we had the list for which states have reciprocity, and it seemed like that list was never up to date. So I worry if we have something that then we're responsible for maintaining. So I think if we could have something more on we better define the domains, and maybe even we don't have to have all of the verbiage beneath them. The one thing I would warn us about, though, is that on panels, everybody that's on the panel is there because they have a thing. And what ends up happening is, if they just did their dissertation on something, they think that's the most important thing that there could possibly be, and try and get it inserted into the SMRs. So I think whatever way we go about reviewing the SMRs needs to take into account that the purpose of the bill was not to create barriers, but to reduce them.
thank you, Commissioner White-Smith, and then I'm going to be next.
Good morning, colleagues. As the liaison to the AICCU institution, so the independent private not-for-profits, we too are, have concerns about, looking at transcript and transcript review. But first of all, we just want to, as a community, just share our gratitude for the work that this is trying to accomplish, which is really kind of opening the doors and allowing more opportunities for more diverse future teachers. So that we applaud the commission on the work that's happening here to do that. We also want to make sure that, again, that we are included as partners in thinking about our courses as well as our public friends, institutions, when we think about developing some sort of combined or collated strategy for that. I agree having an actual database with specific classes could potentially be problematic. So I do support looking at the domains and developing some sort of for lack of a better word, rubric, because what we're finding at our institutions is that people from the public are coming to us to get transcript reviews. And instead of enrolling into the program, what they're doing is they're taking that review and then they're shopping it around to different institutions to see which one would give them the best or the least restrictive opportunity. And so, so these are concerns we have with regards to making sure that potential candidates are entering programs that provide them with sufficient development and training, and really gives a holistic approach to reviewing their transcripts so that they have the most support and foundation, not the one that allows insufficient work going into the profession. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Commissioner White-Smith, for reminding us of that. This is a real big problem for institutions that are preparing teachers for all of the reasons that you all have cited here. And we really have to come up with some solutions. The inter-rater consistency is a big one. It's a big issue. The cost of doing transcript analysis, not only to institutions, but if candidates are being charged for that, because it's a workload issue. And then the third thing is, how are the people doing the analysis understanding what the courses are offering? I served as the education minor advisor at UCSB for many, many years, and a lot of my role was students coming with courses that were not in the minor, asking for them to substitute for something else. The best thing I could do is go directly to the professor and say, here's what the course is. How does your course cover the same content? So a best practice would be that professors who are teaching courses in our undergraduate institutions across the state of California, I don't think we could do it out of California, could be the ones to look at the SMRs and say, my course covers this. Now, that's just one practice. And so in terms of process, if there is a way to gather the best practices or ideas that institutions have come up with right now in order to solve these big problems, which are really big problems, that's one possibility for process. I think we need to put together opportunities for process, and it has to be done fairly quickly. Commissioner Grenishire?
There used to be, and I hope there still is, a California Association of Credential Analysts.
Yeah.
They would be a really, really important group to lean on as we try and figure this out and bring in as a partner more fully, I think.
Yes, I was thinking of CCAC as well, also as a model for bringing together the people who are doing the work, because that's what CCAC, a lot of what they do, and correct me if I'm wrong, they get together, they are sharing their practices and their understandings, and they're collaborating to understand the best ways to do their work. So the big question becomes, who does this? Who's responsible? Because it is the institutions that have the responsibility and the power to determine what is covered. Sorry, David, Commissioner Simmons.
I was wondering if David could maybe answer that question, because which institutions are authorized to do this? If I have an induction program, can I do it? If I have a multiple subject, can I do transcript analysis for single subject?
So as we read AB 130, it is at the institutional level, as long as it's an approved institution or an institution that offers an approved preparation program. It's not preliminary versus induction. It is just institution that offers an approved preparation program. And the other thing I'll add is, we have worked with CCAC. They did a poll of their members and found that it's all kinds of different people at various institutions who are doing the transcript analysis. Sometimes it is the credential analyst, sometimes it's administrators, sometimes it is subject matter professors.
Okay, so in my county, our county office has a induction program. So I had somebody who I needed subject matter for. So I went through and did the transcript analysis of what I thought it was, and that was the deal I made with the county, that if I would do the pre-analysis and then they would go back and look at it. Having done that, I wouldn't do it for less than $100 because it probably took an hour to do it. Now I'm out of practice because I haven't done transcript analysis in a long time, but going through those transcripts and then doing like internet searches for what is a particular course is not, or looking for their handbooks, it does take time. So as somebody who's done it, that would be my feedback.
So I think there have been a number of really interesting and good ideas generated at this table. And then we need the people who are doing this work to add to these ideas that we've generated at this table, so that we can come up with some solutions. Executive Director Sandy is reminding me, just as you all were just talking about the subject matter preparation program, subject matter prep programs are approved by the commission. The commission does the review of the courses and all of the written documentation that surrounds the courses that says these courses meet these SMRs for these reasons, and then the commission can approve them. I think there are a number of different ways we could think about making this process better. I wonder if there is a way to advise staff to come back in the February meeting, either with having invited the right people to come forward with ideas, or have a larger gathering, like a CSAC meeting would do, to bring the people in the same room, bring together the ideas, and then collate those ideas into something that's actionable. I don't think we have to make a decision right at this table, but let's ask staff to move forward with the next steps on what we might do here. And then if there are commissioners who in particular want to be involved, I think you can contact Mr. DeGear and say, I want to help with this. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, and the first thing we would do is look at the K-12 student standards, because education code requires that our subject matter requirements be based completely on the K-12 student standards.
And this may be pie in the sky, but those of us in higher education who create professional programs have for a very long time worked under the conditions that you can't just teach whatever you want. You need to be sure that you're meeting the particular standards that will allow for your student in your class to continue on to earn their professional certification. That's only a small part of a university that is required to do that. Most professors in a university do not have those same requirements, but maybe they should, because we have a teacher shortage in this state. And maybe we need to ask them to be a little bit more cognizant of what it is and how they are helping support that cause. So, right. Yep.
I have a quick question. Would it help, or would it just be more work, or would it just have no relevance? If we requested a list of those institutions outside higher learning that are able to, to assess student transcripts, to give us an idea. I don't know. I'm trying to think of the breadth and, in terms of like. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay, because I'm thinking that, for example, there's a county office in one one region, and there's a school district in another, and so I'm just trying to get a sense of, just the degree of variance here in terms of those that have this authorization to do that. So, but I can go to the website also. So, thank you.
Well, that's a helpful part of this that we should put all together in place. Commissioner Grenoshire.
As we do this work, I was reflecting on a conversation I had earlier this week in another group about keeping our clients, our candidates front and center. So what is their experience? Because when you said you wouldn't do this for more than less than $100, that made me worry that now we're putting this on the shoulders of our candidates. So if we could keep that in mind as well. How do we support preparation programs to staff up to do this? And how do we also keep the charge to candidates nominal?
I appreciate you saying that. That is a critical piece, that we never want the policies that our legislature enforces or that we enforce to add more costs to people who want to come into our profession. That's a critical thing that we have to keep in mind and make sure that we don't exacerbate. Commissioner Cardenas.
I just wanted to echo that as well, just from a student perspective. I think Commissioner Whitesmith also mentioned how students are shopping around and they're trying to find out like the best program.
Right.
Right. I know currently right now with the community college system and also the UC and the CSUs, they have a program called Assist, right, where students can see what courses can transfer over. If there was ever some, far-fetched, but something in the future where students could actually get on a system like that, where they can see which courses would meet certain requirements to get into a program.
Right.
And I know it already exists for the community college system, right, and CSUs and UCs. Is there any way to include some kind of candidate programs for students? So just an idea.
I think that's a great idea. And then I think the best place is to have the professor just look at the SMR and say, my course meets this, and give a rationale for why. And that's it. It's not that hard, I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong. All right. Commissioners, I so appreciate this conversation. We did good work at the table this morning, and you all are going to continue to do good work. So with that, it's time for a vote. Yeah. Right. Did we already vote? Sorry. Staff direction. As soon as I said it, I'm in the twilight zone. With that, then, thank you, Mr. DeGear. Thank you, commissioners. I now recess the general session and move to the Professional Practices Committee. Commissioner Hartwig, will you please convene the committee? Ay, ay, ay.
Good morning. I now convene the Professional Practices Committee. The committee has one item today. Item 3A is the Division of Professional Practices Workload Report. Rachel Gritzofi will present this item. Ms. Gritzofi, will you please begin?
Good morning, commissioners. To increase its oversight of the work of the Division of Professional Practices, in 2011, the Commission on Teacher Credentialing directed staff to present information about DPP's workload as part of its commission's agenda. The Commission's dashboard reports on 6 key measurements in line graph form, showing both current year numbers as well as prior year numbers for comparison purposes. The total cases are the number of open cases within DPP, including cases in our intake unit, before the Committee of Credentials, the committee, pending before the commission, and pending an administrative hearing. At the end of October, our caseload was 2,794 cases, which is in the normal range of 26 to 28 cases. 2,800 cases. Cases opened are new cases received during the month from all sources, including criminal arrest notices, district reports, affidavits, and educators who self-report. In October, our staff opened 505 cases, which is just above the normal range of 400 to 500 cases per month. The initial review and formal review charts reflect the number of cases reviewed by the committee at its normal 3-day meeting. The 2-step process is required by statute. The committee continues to review initial review cases due to the overall decline of the DPP caseload. Staff expects initial cases to increase to at least 90 or more cases per month within the next 6 months as the reports of misconduct return to normal levels. Cases closed is the number of matters closed by the committee action, or closed by staff where the commission is given formal delegation of authority. For example, single offense alcohol cases that do not involve schools, minors, or publicity. In October, 571 cases were closed, which rose just above the normal range of 400 to 500 cases per month. AG cases refers to the cases in which an educator requests an administrative hearing to challenge the recommendation for discipline made by the committee. An administrative hearing is an evidentiary proceeding where an administrative law judge hears and rules on the evidence. The commission is represented in these hearings by the Office of the Attorney General. The number of cases where the AG is representing the commission is shown in the last graph, and the number of cases currently at administrative hearing stage is 143. The Division of Professional Practices is committed to work that is critical to public service and the commission's mission. DPP continues to maintain a steady case production while at the same time ensuring quality case preparation for the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Krasafi. We will now open for public comment. If there are members of the public that would like to give a presentation, please notify the meeting moderator by submitting a request card or clicking on the raise hand icon if participating through Zoom, or pressing *9 if participating by phone. Recording secretary, are there any public comments?
There are no public comments.
The public comment period for this item is now closed. Do commissioners have any questions or comments on this item? Well, I will jump in with my questions and comments first then, and if anybody else has any, please jump in. First, I just want to thank you, Ms. Krasafi, for this report. I know that we receive it at each meeting, and it is a very important way for us to be able to discuss in public the third pillar of the work that the commission does, and work which is not seen that much by the public because it involves the closed session work that we do of reviewing conduct cases, which, along with accreditation and credentialing, are the three pillars of our mandate and is extremely important to protecting the welfare of our school children and our profession. So thank you very much for bringing this to us each time. I had one question. I noticed that there was a very large number of cases closed between September and October. Almost 150, I think it looked like, which looked like a big jump either from August to September or the year before. Was there a reason that there was such a large number closed in that time period?
Yes, the number of cases closed are affected by the totals that come out of the commission meetings. So when the commission cases are finalized, the 30-day timer starts at the end of that. In October, although the commission cases from August closed on October 3rd, which included, I believe, almost 136 cases. So that adds to the total number when we're producing all of the records that say we've closed all of these cases.
Thank you. That's helpful to understand that that cycle. I'm going to ask a question I ask at each meeting, and is very important for us to know as well, which is, are the resources of the Division of Professional Practices adequate for you to be able to keep up the workload and the timing that you have established? And do you anticipate any issues, given that we do expect initial cases to rise over the next, as you point out, 6 months?
No, we believe that our staff is adequately prepared, adequately trained. We are currently fully staffed, where we hadn't been over the past several months. And our current levels now, I believe, in a report on Tuesday I received, we have 100 cases moving to the December meeting. And so we are slowly moving as the cases are prepared and ready. They are staged appropriately to go to the next available meeting, and those are moving forward. And as we've stated before, during the audit, when we had a much larger caseload, the staff was able to present and the committee was able to review up to 115 cases at initial review. So we are well within those limits to continue processing as normal. Our staff is fully aware. We move in a time order so that all the educators are moved through the system as available, and we don't anticipate any issues at this time.
Thank you for that assurance. And this is also a good moment to recognize the incredible work that our Committee on Credentials does, and that committee is able to keep up with the increased workload too. We are much appreciative of that. I'm sure I can share that on behalf of the Commission. Are there any other questions or comments from commissioners before we close this item? Yes, Commissioner Martinez.
No, I simply wanted to add my congratulations for your efficiency and having such a good systemic process in place and closing so many cases. So congrats to the staff in addition to the commissioner calling out our great committee. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Martinez. This is an information item and no action is needed. Thank you, Ms. Gritzafi.
Thank you.
This concludes the business before the Professional Practices Committee. The committee is adjourned.
Thank you, Commissioner Hartwig. I think we are due for a 10-minute break. Let's come back at all right, 11:40. It'll be a 13-minute break. Okay. Sorry, 10:40. 10:40.
Thank you so much for that. Okay. I would like to reconvene the Educator Preparation Committee. We have 5 items today. Just to kind of give you guys the sense of order, we're going to start with 2E and 2F, go to 2D, 2G, and 2H, because we didn't do 2D yesterday. So the first item is 2E, Initial Institutional Approval, Stage 3, Consideration of Provisional Approval for Relay Graduate School of Education. This item is being presented by Poonam Beatty and Hart Boyd. It's an action item. Mr. Boyd, will you please begin?
Yes, thank you. Item 2E presents Relay Graduate School of Education's responses to Stage 3 of the initial institutional approval process for the Commission's consideration and possible provisional approval. On page 2 of the item, you will find the 5 stages of the IIA process chart, with the current stage, Stage 3, highlighted. You may recall from the October meeting that the Commission took action to adopt the changes to the IIA process that staff recommended. These changes included moving the initial program preconditions and general precondition number 9 to Stage 2 and the program-specific preconditions to Stage 4. During the previous Commission meeting, staff noted that we would work with institutions that are impacted by these adopted changes on a case-by-case basis. Relay Graduate School of Education is one such institution, which is why the highlighted column for Stage 3 in this item's chart notes that responses to the initial program preconditions and general precondition number 9 were required, as Relay already had their eligibility approved in Stage 2 prior to the adoption of the most recent changes to the approval process. Additionally, the chart notes that provisional approval means an institution is approved, but the institution cannot offer the proposed programs until Stage 4, in which the relevant program standards and program-specific preconditions will be reviewed to determine alignment. The proposed programs will then be brought before the Committee on Accreditation, who may approve or deny the programs. As noted on page 3 of the item, Relay is proposing to offer 3 preliminary programs through both traditional and intern pathways, including preliminary multiple subject, preliminary single subject in math, science, social science, and English, and preliminary education specialist, mild to moderate support needs. Also on this page, you will find the link to the About Relay and Our History webpage that houses the Stage 3 submissions that contain the full responses to the relevant standards and preconditions. With that, I will turn the second half of this presentation over to my colleague, Poonam.
Thanks, Hart. Summaries of Relay's responses to the 2 initial program preconditions and general precondition 9 are provided on pages 4 through 6 of the item. Review of the precondition submission was completed by Commission staff. These preconditions have been found to be met. Excerpts from Relay's responses to the common standards are provided across pages 7 through 23 of this item. A team of BIR, or Board of Institutional Review, members reviewed, collaborated, and came to a decision of aligned on all the common standards. In conclusion, based on the findings of met for all relevant preconditions and aligned for all the common standards, staff would like to recommend provisional approval for Relay Graduate School of Education. It is recommended that the provisional approval period be set for a period of 3 years so that in the third year, a provisional site visit can occur and data can be collected. After the provisional site visit, a report will be brought before the commission for consideration of full approval, which is part of the 5th and final stage of the IIA process. An example of such an item is actually next on the commission's agenda for today. Representing Relay, we have with us virtually today Dr. Alice Waldron, Dean, Dr. Maya Weatherton, Provost, and Davida Gatlin, Managing Director of Academic Compliance. They will be available to answer any Stage 3 submission questions that you may have, and staff is available to answer any process questions. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now open for public comment. If there are members of the public that are here today and want to give a presentation, please notify the meeting moderator by submitting a request card. If you're on Zoom, please click the raised hand. If you are on phone, please hit *9. Recording secretary, are there any public comments?
There are no public comments.
Great, thank you so much. The public comment period for this item is now closed. I'm going to open it up to the commissioners. Do you have any questions or comments on this item? No. Commissioner Klatt.
Thank you. And good morning to our representatives on Zoom. So first of all, I just wanted to say that I appreciate the outreach to rural communities, having grown up in one. There's not always a lot of opportunities or proximity to colleges or places to get to enter a program. So I really appreciate that. And then I just have a question. On page 16 of the item, it talks about the candidate, some of the things that they will do to collaborate with their mentor and program supervisor. And I appreciate it was bullet point 2. It talked about the 5 hours per week with a supervisor. And I appreciate that the spelling out of some of the types of activities they would do in those 5 hours. My question is, when will that 5 hours happen? How will that be embedded into the workday? Is that during common planning time? Is that expected to be before or after school? Just 5 hours a week? It might be, it's probably not enough, but it's a lot at the same time to build in. So if you could speak to that, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you so much for the question, Commissioner, and for having us today. We're happy to be here. It depends on whether the candidate is in our residency or our intern track. In our residency track, the most common structure is that the candidate would be in the classroom with their supervising teacher, who we call the resident advisor, throughout the week, observing that teacher, co-planning, and gradually taking on more and more responsibility for teaching across the year leading up to that student teaching. In the intern pathway, it would be in those times of co-planning. It would be when the supervising teacher observes, that type of thing. And what we do is we work with our partners to map out exactly what that looks like. And we talk about the mentor-teacher responsibilities to think about the feasibility and where they can find that time. So sometimes the details can vary a little partner to partner.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Commissioner Klatt. Other questions by other commissioners? Yes, Chair Sloan.
Good morning. Under precondition number 9, which talks about faculty and instructional personnel participation, the standard asks you to tell us how faculty are participating in the public school system And your response talks in general about how they do and that you hire TK-12 practitioners and you hire full-time and part-time adjunct instructors, and you have faculty who, let's see, Relays, GSE's online programs, adjunct faculty members for Relays, GSE online programs have participated in the public school system at least once during the past 3 years. My question is that there isn't a mention specifically of California with respect to how faculty are participating in California public schools, and I wanted you to help us understand that.
Absolutely. As you know, we are currently seeking approval, and so we are confident that once granted approval, we will be able to demonstrate that in the California school system. So some examples of that are our clinical experience is really designed to be co-constructed and run with our partner TK through 12 schools in California. And so faculty collaborate closely with mentor teachers. We will be hiring a program director as well as a state director in California specifically, who will be further responsible for ensuring that all faculty participate in the California public school system. Finally, upon approval for our programs, we plan to also reach out to prospective partners to begin recruiting candidates faculty candidates who live in California. And we hope to be able to hire candidates from California directly as well.
Could I just follow up
Please.
and then get a little bit more understanding of who are the faculty who primarily teach your online courses, and how do they integrate with the TK-12 educators in California?
Yes, so currently faculty who teach online courses, all faculty at Relay themselves were excellent TK through 12 teachers. Many, as our application mentions, many of them still currently are. In terms of individual engagement in the state of California specifically, we do have some faculty members that live in California, but not all of our faculty members do. And so it varies faculty to faculty member currently.
I think what I'm trying to understand, sorry to belabor this,
no, please.
Is how Relay is going to prepare teacher candidates to teach students in California, meet the standards in California in the ways that ensure that they have deep understanding of the public school students and their needs here in our state. And we have a lot of research and practice that indicates that high quality programs require that the institutions of higher education are working closely with our school districts to co-create and co-design not just co-design the experiences, but ensure that the curriculum is directly integrated. In other words, what they're learning in a class, they're practicing in their clinical teaching, they're taking that back to their courses, they're analyzing, they're reflecting, they're understanding it in terms of the contexts in which they're teaching and the communities they're serving. I just want a better understanding of how Relay, given that you are a primarily online education program in a number of different states, is going to be able to do that in California for California students.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for the follow-up. As we agree, and we think this is of critical importance for our faculty to understand the California context and for our curriculum to reflect that. So a couple different things we think about. First, from the very beginning of program design, we align to California teacher preparation expectations. And these standards alignment is ingrained in our program and curriculum design from the beginning. And then, of course, it's important to have that local context, remain up on changes, all of that kind of thing after the initial program design. And I'll also say our initial program design is based additionally on feedback from prospective partners and members of our educator preparation advisory board in California. Once we launch, we plan to continue those close connections with local education agencies. So a couple examples of that. I mentioned that we will be hiring a program director and a state director in the state of California. They will be responsible for ensuring exactly what you described. So I'll give a couple of examples in those details. So they will meet regularly with partners when partnerships launch to learn about their vision for their schools, their curriculum, their standards, the assets of their students and their communities, and the needs of their candidates and their students. Throughout continued collaboration, we meet regularly with partners, including doing data step backs with specific partners to look at candidate experience, look at success, and look at how well we are being context specific. And then finally, it's the responsibility of the program director to train all faculty who will serve California students in things like the California standards, the local context, the curriculum that our LEA partners use, and give them continued support in integrating that information into their curriculum and support for our candidates.
Thank you, Chair Sloan. I have a related follow-up question.
Great.
Can you describe or name some of your partners, whether that's here in California or examples nationally? Because I know you're in the early phases, but if you have a sense of some of your partners, as you keep mentioning, I'd love to have some examples of who those are here in California and or nationally.
Yes, absolutely. So we work with a variety of partners. So I'll start nationally. We work from small to large school districts such as the New York City Department of Education, Chicago Public Schools, the district in Knox County, Tennessee. So both for urban and more rural. We partner with school systems in more rural areas like the Rio Grande Valley in Texas. We partner with IDEA Public Schools there. In California, our launch partners include ACE charter schools, Rocket Ship public schools, Navigator public schools, and Alpha public schools. We also have letters of support from additional districts, and we expect to expand our partnerships once we're able to launch.
Okay, thank you very much. I see that Commissioner Francois has a question.
I wanted to follow up with the questions that Chair Sloan raised. And I'm going to apologize ahead of time if in your responses you answered this question. I think I just want something more succinct and concrete.
No problem.
In your response to the common standards, you write that as Relay GSC's programs are online, full-time and adjunct faculty teaching candidates in Relay GSC's proposed California Educator Preparation Program will not be required to be geographically located in California. Could you just briefly state, given Chair Sloan's concerns and questions around the importance of the socio-political context of teaching and learning, what is your rationale for not requiring your faculty members to be geographically located in California?
Of course. Thank you for the question. So our program director is a faculty member, and that person will be required to be geographically located in California. I do want to emphasize that we will be recruiting and hiring from California, but you are right, for faculty positions, they are not geographically required. We currently operate in multiple states, and when a faculty member is not geographically located in the state that they teach in, we make sure that they have the deep understanding of that local context. And we do this by prioritizing synchronous relationships with both our partners and our teacher candidates, thinking about cohorts of students in sections so that a faculty member can sort of really learn and specialize in specific areas. For example, I myself live in Colorado, and I have taught our Texas candidates for about 5 years.
Can I come back to that? Thank you.
Of course.
Other commissioners with comments or questions? Commissioner Redia?
So I'm following up on the previous two speakers because I'm still trying to get a sense where I feel comfortable about really understanding what happens in California and the context. we had an earlier discussion today among the commissioners where we find that even though we've lived here, we still need opportunities for discussion on important critical issues. And so I want to know is, what are the attempts, other than having these conversations by, via Zoom about a little bit about, what's California like, what's Colorado like, what's Chicago like? What other for example, are there any professional development opportunities for everyone who you employ, not the students, but that are employed, to really understand about the social-political nature of California, and the issues at hand and the communities? I mean, because our rural communities are very different, as LA Unified, for example, or Fresno. So I'm just want to get a sense of a little more confidence in the idea that there is this really deep concerted effort to truly understand the student population, because that makes all the difference in terms of how people view students.
I couldn't agree more. And I believe that relates also to our curriculum's emphasis on culturally responsive teaching. You can't do that without knowing the students and communities. So to answer your question, we operate a national model with local context embedded. And this is something that we do have experience with in other states. For example, we just got a commendation from the Colorado Department of Education on our ability to do just this, which is integrate the local context. And so once we are able to launch and hire our California-specific faculty and staff and leaders, we will absolutely look into things like professional development. And I think most importantly, it also comes to that close contact and relationship that the California program director will have with LEA leaders, and that our clinical faculty will have in co-constructing and supporting candidates in their school, with windows into their classrooms for video observations, looking at student data, looking at analysis of K through 12 student surveys to see how they're feeling in the classroom, interviews. It really is built into our program that we want to see candidates in their contexts, leveraging the assets of their students, and we work alongside the mentor teachers, for example, to ensure that faculty understand that and integrate it into both curriculum and support for the candidates.
Thank you for addressing our questions. I think our staff would like to talk. Just briefly, I won't belabor this issue at all, but just as a point of clarification, which may or may not matter to the conversation, is that as this precondition currently stands, the requirement is that their faculty have active participation in K-12 public schools. It doesn't say California K-12 public schools. I just wanted to point that out. And certainly if that is a deep desire of the commission, we might want to look at making this precondition very, very clear. So I just wanted to point that out. Again, it may or may not matter for the point of the conversation, but this is how the precondition stands at the moment. I appreciate the context, and particularly with being at provision 3 or stage 3. Commissioner Grenell-Shire.
I have a question related to faculty development and selection of faculty. And it's a question I've asked at this table before. In institutions of higher education, there is a built-in process to ensure that faculty are engaging in continuous learning and improvement of their own discipline knowledge.
Yes.
And when I look at page 9, it lists the qualifications. How do you ensure that your faculty understand that nexus of theory and practice and continue to grow as professionals to ensure that they're providing relevant best practice content to their candidates?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the question. So we work with faculty both internally and to engage in external professional development to continuously improve. So internally, this can mean anything from things like book studies, participating in learning working groups, to things like previews of curriculum, the theory and the research behind them, and practice, as well as data reflection. We also help connect faculty to external professional development and have funds for faculty to pursue those opportunities as well.
Okay. All right. Other commissioners, any comments or questions? This is an action item, so we'll be moving to a vote. Chair Sloan?
I just had some questions under Common Standard 3.
Great.
There were, so page 16 and 17 talks about your clinical practice work and some of the specific things that candidates will be doing. And so one was that there are at least 2 clinical practice courses, this is page 16, that will be co-requisites with courses specific to the credentials sought. Central topics in the coursework will serve as areas of focus in clinical practice seminars in which candidates will observe other teachers, practice applying key knowledge and skills, and deepen their toolbox through practice protocols and feedback. What I wanted to understand, and then later on in the standard 2, it talks about candidates will, where is this? I think this is on page 17. There are 3 there are 3 things. I can't remember what this is. That on the bottom of, sorry, it's the bottom of page 16 as well. There's 1, 2, 3 teaching opportunities, supervision, and field experiences in the range of the credential. So related to this last issue, it also says each candidate will plan out a series of experiences each term in the range of licensure. This will include observations, interviews, meetings, and other meaningful experience of teacher, staff, students, etc. So as a former program director and having been involved in teacher education for a very long time, one of the things that I have learned in my practice and in the research that we do is that observations are critical and have to be designed in ways that ensure that the candidates are engaging in the observation and have opportunities to reflect on not only what they think they're seeing, but with supports to help them understand what else is here. In other words, it's a really complex teacher education practice that requires a lot of thought. I want to understand how candidates plan this series and how this kind of the observations, etc., of teachers, are they in California classrooms? Are they films of teachers that are in other classrooms throughout the nation? Help me understand this practice a little bit.
Got it. So I'll speak to our planned California programs specifically. They would be both observations of teachers in their classrooms, so the candidate themselves teaching in the classroom, that would be video based, and there is a component, there's a significant component of reflection and collaboration with the mentor teacher at the school site. We have about 5 of those in each of the 2 clinical practice courses that you referenced currently built in, where it's a faculty member where it's a video-based observation of the candidate themselves teaching. In terms of thinking about clinical experience holistically, we also want to ensure that candidates are learning from observing other teachers in local contexts. So those are also sources of data that we ask candidates to consider as they continuously reflect on it and improve in their clinical practice coursework and experiences. So both, I think, is the short answer to your question.
Okay. And then sort of related to this is also where the clinical practice takes place. And I know in previous times that you've come to the table, you've helped us understand this a little bit better, but I just got a little confused on page 15, again, under Common Standard 3. There is a paragraph that says how the clinical practice sites are selected. And there's a sentence that says, prior to approving an individual clinical practice placement, Relay's GSE certification officer will look up the school in Anthology portfolio, which pulls diversity data from NCES, and confirm that the placement will provide the candidate with experiences in a diverse school setting. The candidate can use this data to proactively plan for a positive, inclusive classroom culture. What I was just getting a little lost in is who's choosing the clinical placement and how does that come about?
Great question. It is a collaboration between Relay and our partner LEAs.
Say again?
It is a collaboration between Relay and our partner LEAs. So for example, if we are working with a specific district or network, we would collaborate with that partner to choose the exact clinical practice placements and sites.
And then with respect to the sites where candidates will be conducting clinical practice, are those sites, and I apologize, this may have been in earlier, but how are those sites selected? And is there any criteria other than that they would be good placements, or is there some context specific reason for selecting the sites? In other words, are they all over California? Are they rural? Are they urban? Are they serving multiple students? How are you selecting them in California?
Great question. Thank you. So we are primarily looking to respond to needs from partner LEAs. And so our partner LEAs actually hire interns and residents, and then we work with them to think about the specific sites within that geography or location that might best support the candidate and provide them with the best range of clinical experiences.
Okay.
Any other? Oh, yes, I'm so sorry. I just would love to make an observation too about this. A lot of these questions are, they're certainly within the context of common standards, but they are some things that would be further flushed out in their program submission, which the COA would review. So just, I guess, saying, for instance, if you move to approve, you could also add some additional direction to have some of these things unraveled, looked at a little bit more deeply by your accrediting body, by the COA. So when they come before the COA, they could really build out a little bit more of this or follow some direction from commission.
Commissioner Francois.
Thank you for that reminder. I seem to bring this up every single time that we have a initial program approval on the table. And if I'm correct, it looks like all of the school districts that the MOUs or the letters of support are written by are in rural communities. And so I'm wondering if the staff has any information about what other preparation programs in the areas that Relay has articulated in their application, what other programs are available to potential candidates in the area. And I think, you know, my question is from a concern about an oversaturation of an unneeded saturation of preparation program serving the same communities.
So this is not something we currently gather data on. We've had some discussions. Certainly, I apologize if during the discussion that we had, I did not understand that this was something that maybe commissioners want us to flesh out a bit more within these, you know, so staff could do that research, but we haven't done it for this. I will say, as somebody who also lives in a rural area, oversaturation of teacher preparation in those areas is not usually a problem, but that's just anecdotal.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I didn't ask for any evidence before, but I think that if we are going to be a data-informed organization, then we should be data-informed as much as possible. And well, I was going to say something else about that. Okay, there we go. Tina's
we will have a
absent memory
conversation.
is affecting me across the table.
Commissioner Prince-Hall, we will have a conversation following this commission meeting about potentially bringing, if it's going to be a requirement added to the IIA process, we would need to bring it back to the commission to approve it. So we'll have a conversation internally about what that might look like and bring something back for commissioner consideration and adoption.
Thank you. And I just remembered my last thought is that in the preconditions, when we ask about a demonstration of need, I think it's kind of important that we be a little bit more detailed about what that need might entail, right? I think affordability, online, instructional, I forgot the terminology, it kind of scratches the surface, but I think about need in deeper ways. So that's something to consider in the conversation. Thank you.
Director Sandy.
I'd love to just add a little bit of context in it to the question of need. We have a significant teacher shortage in the state of California and have continually discussed the need to increase the capacity of California's teacher preparation community to produce more teachers. And we run into the issue of capacity within the institutions to prepare more teachers. But I think that's also part of the context that we should be talking about. We have 80 institutions in California that are accredited, give or take one or two, to offer preliminary teacher preparation. And yet we're still issuing, significant numbers of emergency permits and intern documents to staff classrooms because we don't have enough fully credentialed teachers to staff classrooms, and our institutions are not, if LEAs are preparing or saying they need to hire between 18 and 20,000 teachers every year, we aren't producing that many. So I think it's something to consider as part of the overall construct of what is the need in California. Just a thought to throw into the mix.
Commissioner Simmons, and then Chair Sloan.
If we're going to get into that discussion, I think also it should be not only the number of programs, but the number of births within those programs, because I have not heard anybody from the AICCU saying that they're at capacity and can't take more students. I think it may be more and I haven't heard that lately from the CSU either. So I would be interested from those institutions. Are they closed?
Chair Sloan.
So this is moving into other territory, I think. And Dr. Waldron and Dr. Weatherton, this is not a criticism against Relay Graduate School, Dr. Gatlin. It is a deep concern and wanting to understand how a national online teacher preparation program opening its doors in California is going to do the things that isn't just going to alleviate our teacher shortage, but is actually going to prepare the teachers we need for our students in our classroom. And yes, we have a teacher shortage, and yes, we need more capacity within the institutions that we have in this state. So this is not a criticism against Relay when I say this, which is I hope our legislators are listening, because this is what we are having to do in order to meet capacity when our public institutions are not funded to be able to provide a greater capacity for preparing teachers.
Thank you, Chair Sloan. Student Liaison Trent.
Yeah, I really appreciate all the comments that the commissioners have said so far. I think we need to be really careful to define what need really is and what it means, because I think in terms of need, it can be codified as under-resourced and under-supported. So I was particularly looking at the section on clinical mentors on page 15 of the item, and the criteria for a clinical mentor to be chosen. And I know for speaking from my experience as a student teacher, the clinical mentor is such a crucial part of that preparation and that support, especially for school sites that have a need and are often under-resourced. So having that strong clinical mentor that is eligible and prepared to mentor student teachers is such an important part. So I was looking at the criteria for this, and I see that being recognized as an excellent teacher by their school and school system, I was wondering what those observable things look like and what that vetting system looks like, because it's such an important part to support student teachers to feel that they are prepared to have strong mentors.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much for the question. So we, in our full application materials, if you want to check it out as well, we have, we start with our partner LEAs with a full toolkit related to mentor selection that includes sort of different competencies to look for in mentors. So things like coaching ability, using asset-based coaching, understanding of the content, strong relationships with their own TK through 12 students, strong abilities to teach in a culturally responsive way with their own TK through 12 students. Those are some examples, in addition to sample questions for mentor selections. And then going back to one of the previous conversations, also things to consider to ensure the mentor has capacity to work with the candidate. And then we work with the individual LEAs to further tailor that resource to their exact needs and context.
Thank you for the question and the response. Commissioner White-Smith, who's on Zoom.
Thank you. I just wanted to respond to Commissioner Simmons' question with regards to AICCU institutions' capacity. And it's true, we still have capacity to support the state of California throughout our institutions. And again, going back and wanting to just confirm the idea of defining capacity with regards to supports and actually getting the word out there of our presence. Thank you.
Thank you for responding to that. Chair Sloan, and then it looks like Commissioner Pavry. Okay, Commissioner Pavry.
Just wanted to piggyback on the AICCU, but since the question was about capacity, there is definitely capacity in the CSU as well. It may not be at every CSU university, but across the CSU there is absolutely capacity. And we also have our online Cal State Teach program that works in our rural regions too.
Thank you. Chair Sloan.
So I know I'm asking a lot of questions at this juncture, and Aaron Sullivan is reminding us that during the program standards, we can get more understanding of Relay's specific curriculum and the kinds of things that you propose to do, and that we still have several more steps in this process. So I would urge you to really help us understand the ways in which, when you respond to the program standards, how we can be assured that the students that your candidates will be serving, both in your program and after they graduate, are being served well for the specific communities and students in California, and that your candidates are also feeling a part of a teacher preparation program. In other words, that their experiences across your program are not disparate, like we do this over here, we do that over there, and now we are in our clinical practice. I want to understand how it all is integrated. Well, actually, I'm not going to be here. I want my fellow commissioners to understand how it's all going to be integrated into a whole, so that the candidates are able to put together all of those experiences into the very complex nature of their practice.
Thank you. And thank all the commissioners for the questions and comments. I think it does provide a lot of understanding for Relay to know what we'll be looking for as you continue through this process if the commissioners vote on this action item. So this is an action item. Do I have a motion to either grant or deny provisional approval to Relay Graduate School of Education? If provisional approval is granted, the provisional approval period will be 3 years. Do I have a motion? I have a motion by Commissioner Klatt. Do I have a second? I'll second the motion if I can. Can I, as the chair? Okay, I second the motion. All right, we're gonna go for we're gonna have discussion and then go for the vote.
What was the motion? Was it to grant or to deny?
To grant. Sorry, thank you. You're right. I read the vote. Thank you. All right, so the motion is to grant provisional approval. I'm going to go for a vote without seeing any more hands. And oh, one more hand.
I want to, so I'm getting the sense that there are some critical issues that have been surfaced in conversation here, where your confidence is not as great as some of you would like for it to be at this point. So one thing I believe helped me, Ms. Sullivan, with understanding procedurally whether the commission could in fact ask for Relay to return with more information to answer some of the concerns that have been surfaced here, and for reconsideration of this action at a future meeting.
Yes, thank you, Executive Director Sandy. That is true. So granting at this stage would allow them to move forward to propose their program, which will be peer reviewed against the standards and reviewed by the Committee on Accreditation. Denial at this stage could be accompanied by, but so denial isn't basically it's not a sudden death issue. Denial means no for now, and can be accompanied by we'd like some more information before we feel comfortable granting. So denial would allow them to come back to fill in some of these gaps, to bring some of this additional information to respond to your concerns. Just one more clarifying question, Erin. How long would they have to come back? Or what's that time period look like? There's no cap on it. There's no time period. It could be short, or it could be short. It could be long. It would be however long we feel, staff would work with them to try to address these questions as best as possible, which is kind of always what we're doing. Okay, what are the commissioners going to ask about? So, all right. And then one more follow-up question. The other suggestion you made too is that we could provide specific direction to the Committee on Accreditation. For information you would like for them to see, yes. Okay, thank you. Chair Sloan?
Is an option that we don't move on it today and just ask them to come back with more information?
I don't know. Your procedure for IIA says in stage 3 that you either grant or deny. So I'm not sure that procedure allows to delay, and I would have to look to executive, just trying to follow things as you've laid them out.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. Commissioner Redia.
Yeah. So what, I don't know. One thought about that may be of interest is granting invites them to move into the development of program standards. And if depending on how much confidence you have that this is moving forward in the ways in which you would approve eventually, you could invite that. But to invite that with these concerns yet unaddressed might be problematic for them.
Commissioner Clark? It could send not a mixed message, but with some of these things hanging out there, moving forward at the same, I don't know that it would make sense for them to think about moving forward simultaneously, because if commissioners eventually say no at this stage, the next stage can't move forward, and that would potentially be wasted time for them. It's up to them to do that, obviously, but. Yeah, and I would just add that a lot of it was contingent on them hiring a California director. And that would, if that was in place, there'd probably be more confidence in some of the answers, or there might be more information. Commissioner Klatt?
Yes, I would just like to take a moment to speak in support of my motion. And it might not pass, but I just wanted to speak, state the reasons why I made the motion. One, I think is, in my mind, stage 3 means this is preliminary. It's not our last chance. I think that the concerns are good concerns to have. I feel like they've been heard, and we're not done. They have to come back. So this is stage 3. It's saying we're allowing them to go forward, but with the understanding, I think it's been made clear that when they come back, if it's granted, that there's some work that needs to be done to address the concerns that people have. My other and perhaps more compelling reason is I went to the data dashboard and just looked at what preparation programs are available in Weed, in Modoc County, where I think they mentioned they have partners. And that's a very remote area. I don't know how many people have actually been up that far north in California. It's very remote. If you look at our map of approved institute or educator preparation programs, there's like nothing there. I think the closest might be Reading, where there's one institution that may be problematic for some folks just because it's not super inclusive. And that's the nearest place, and that's in Reading, and that's still pretty far away. And so for me, the need in these rural communities appears to me to be pretty great. And so having some more resources to address shortages in those rural communities, I think is important. Now, I might be missing something on the map. Maybe there are more programs there, but when I look at the map, there's nothing in that far northeast corner of our state. And so that is my reasons for at this point in time, I'm trying to support them to move forward and develop and to try to address some of these issues that have been brought up.
Thank you, Commissioner Clapp, for providing some comment to the recommendation. Commissioner Pavri.
Just really quick, Cal State Teach is an online multiple subject program that absolutely serves the northernmost part of the state.
Thank you for clarifying that. And just, can I ask a clarifying question then of staff? So if we're looking, if I'm someone who wants to get a credential and I'm looking at that map, and maybe I missed it, is there a way to filter for online? Like if I live in that part of the state, how would I be able to find an online institution that would serve me, let's say in Weed or Modoc County?
The filtering doesn't allow for online. I have to say that certainly during COVID, institutions' online resources have become very robust. So perhaps, we need to have a conversation about finding out from institutions what kinds of online programs you offer, aside from Cal State Teach, that is, the online program. But right now, no. So a candidate would look at this map. I'm looking at the one you're looking at now as well, and zoom in on their geographical area, and then I'm sorry, am I miss?
No, I just wanted to clarify that our ADS system does ask for institutions to report their modality, online, face-to-face, but it doesn't translate into the map.
I see that Dr. Weatherton from Relay wants to speak. I'll just, before I go to Dr. Weatherton, I would add the reason why I also support it is the opportunity to provide multiple pathways for teachers to receive their degree, and I felt like these are real concerns, and I feel like in stage 3 they have the opportunity to address those, and so I just wanted, like stage 4, to address those and with their director be able to do that. Dr. Weatherton.
Thank you so much, commissioners. We just want to make sure that we understand what is happening at this stage. Are there questions at this stage that we need to clarify? Or are there questions at the next stage that you hope that we are better able to address in full?
Erin, do you want to take that question? I think it's unclear. It depends on what the commission's decision is. So I will say that if the commission moves to approve, then staff has taken notes, and thank goodness we also have the recording of this meeting, so we can go back and make sure that we hear all of the information that the commission is concerned about, and provide that to the COA, and even communicate, as Cheryl and I do, with the co-chairs of the COA, and let them know commissioners were very specific. They wanted to see some things in the program. So if it's approved, then the information will occur during stage 4. If it's deny or delay, then that information would come back to the commission at a future. So it would be, if they would stay in stage 3, we would bring them again in stage 3. So Dr. Weatherton, we're still haven't finished our vote. If that helps answer the question, that will determine the next steps. Is that Have we been clear, or do you need more
Yes,
information, Dr.
thank you
Whitaker?
so much. And we just want to name that if there are additional questions for now, we are happy to answer those questions.
We appreciate you guys being on the line with us today. Commissioner Brown.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask for a little clarity on process about the stages so that I understand. So stage 3 is where we're at today, and that comes before the commission. And should we grant approval of stage 3, then at stage 4, then it becomes the property of the Committee on Accreditation, and it would not come before this body again until stage 5. Am I correct? Thank you.
Thanks for the clarifying question as well. Other commissioners, or shall we move to take a vote and see if this motion passes? Okay, so there was a motion and a second to approve. Let's go ahead, recording secretary, and take a vote.
Aye.
Jose Cardenas,
Nay.
Juan Cruz,
Aye.
Christopher Davis,
Aye.
Michael De La Torre,
Nay.
Marisol De La Torre Escobedo,
Aye.
Makita Gwinnett Shire,
Nay.
Johanna Howick,
Aye.
Susan Aradia,
Nay.
Terry Jackson,
Abstain.
Bonnie Clark,
Aye.
Monica Martinez,
Aye.
David Simmons,
Aye.
Tina Sloan.
Nay.
Motion carries.
Well, thank you for presenting this item. Again, commissioners, thank you for a really robust conversation on this. And really, you will be working with the committee, and they will transfer all these notes. And I think we've been very clear, and you'll have plenty of direction from our committee and from our CTC staff. So thank you for your questions and being on the call with us today. All right, we'll move to the next item. Which is 2F. Thank you, Mr. Boyd, Ms. Beatty. Okay, our next item is 2F, institutional approval, stage 5, consideration of full institutional approval for Elder Graduate School of Education. This item is being presented by Jake Schuler and Tim Weeks. This is an action item. Mr. Weeks, will you please begin? Mr. Weeks, can you hear us? Or we just can't hear you. He's talking. Are you on mute?
Yes, I can.
There we
you
go.
hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Good morning, commissioners. I would like to begin by acknowledging that this morning we are joined by Dr. Heather Kirkpatrick and Dr. Shana Sullivan from the Alder Graduate School of Education, and they will be available to answer any questions you may have about the programs that Alder offers. This agenda item presents the Board of Institutional Review report from Alder's provisional site visit in October and the Committee on Accreditation's recommendation for an accreditation decision for Alder during its November 2022 meeting. It is the staff's recommendation after reviewing the report and the Committee on Accreditation's recommendation that the Commission grant Alder Graduate School of Education full institutional approval. I will now turn the discussion over to Jake, who will provide an overview of the initial institutional approval process and some additional details about the Alder site visit.
Thank you, Tim. On page 3 of the item, you'll find the comprehensive table of the initial institutional process that an institution follows when seeking to offer educator preparation programs. Alder began this process in December of 2018 by completing Accreditation 101 and then met their eligibility requirements in August of 2019. They were granted provisional commission approval in January of 2020. Alder operated their programs and collected data about the implementation of their programs leading up to a provisional site visit that took place in October of this year. A team of 4 trained reviewers conducted a site visit to determine alignment to common standards and program standards. The visit was held virtually and proceeded in accordance with all normal accreditation protocols. During the site visit, the review confirmed that programs offered by Alder are valued by participants and their educational partners. The team submitted a report of their findings and a recommendation to the COA, and you'll find that copy of the report in Appendix A of this item. The Committee on Accreditation accepted the recommendations of the team at their November 2022 meeting and is now forwarding their recommendation of accreditation to the Commission to take action today. Again, it's the recommendation of staff that Alder Graduate School of Education be granted full approval. Should the commissioners have questions, the institutional representatives and Tim and I are here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now open for public comment. If there are members of the public that would like to give a presentation, please notify the meeting moderator by submitting a request card if you're here, clicking on the raise hand icon if you're on Zoom, or pressing *9 if participating by phone. Recording secretary, are there any public comments?
We have no public comments on this item.
Okay. Public comment period for this item is now closed. Commissioners, we now open up to commissioners. Do you have any questions or comments on this item? Commissioner Klatt?
This is just not really a question, but just appreciation for the committee who reviewed this. I know, we see this and it doesn't probably fully represent all of the work they did for this and the other reviews. So just some appreciation for the committee and the folks who completed the review.
Thank you, Commissioner Klatt. Other questions or comments? This is an action item. Just give it a couple more seconds and then we're going to move to a vote. Well, you could have more than a couple seconds, but and as a reminder, we have two options: grant full institutional approval to Alder Graduate School of Education. Actually, we have multiple opportunities. Grant full institutional approval and remand back to the COA to address the stipulations identified in the site visit report, continue provisional approval status for 1 year to address stipulations identified in the site visit report, or deny full institutional approval. As a reminder, the recommendation from staff, based on the findings of the site visit team and the decision of the Committee on Accreditation, is to grant full approval. Discussion or motions? Okay, Commissioner Redia makes a motion to grant. That's quite okay. Okay, and Commissioner Davis seconds. Any other discussion, commissioners? Okay, recording secretary, will you take the vote?
Aye.
Jose Cardenas,
Aye.
Juan Cruz,
Aye.
Christopher Davis,
Aye.
Michael De La Torre,
Aye.
Marisol De La Torre Escobedo,
Aye.
Makita Quino Shire,
Aye.
Johanna Howick,
Aye.
Susan Aradia, Terry Jackson,
Aye.
Bonnie Clark,
Aye.
Monica Martinez,
Aye.
David Simmons,
Aye.
Gina Sloan.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Weeks and Mr. Schuler, but congratulations to Relay, and thank you for being on the call. I mean, Alder, sorry. Whew. So sorry, Alder, about that. Anyway, we're all taking a page from Chair Sloan right now. It's getting very close to lunchtime. Anyway, truly, Alder, congratulations, and thank you for your perseverance and for your commitment and responsiveness to the CTC staff, the commissioners, and the Committee on Accreditation. Congratulations. Okay, with that, we will move on to item 2D. So some of you may remember that this was on the agenda yesterday, and this is around the National Board Professional Teaching Standards Certification Incentive Program. I'll let the staff get comfortable. Okay. This item is being presented by David DeGuire and Susan Olson from the California Department of Education's Educator Excellence and Equity Division. This is an information item. Mr. DeGuire, will you please begin?
Good morning, Commissioners. In addition to Kristen Allen and Susan Olson from the California Department of Education, who are here at the table with me, joining remotely are Sarah Pinsky and Stacy Hicks from the National Board of Professional Teaching Standards. This item presents for your information an update on the National Board for Professional Teaching Standards Certification Incentive Program, including successes in the first year of the program and plans to expand this year. The California National Board of Professional Standards Certification Incentive Program was created in the 2021-22 California state budget with an appropriation of $250 million to incentivize teachers who are national board certified or those who are interested in becoming national board certified to work in high priority schools. The Teacher and Leader Policy Office at the California Department of Education administers these awards in consultation with the Commission on Teacher Credentialing. Our colleagues, Sarah Pinsky and Stacy Hicks from the National Board will now give you a brief overview of the certification process and data from the program's first year of operation.
Thanks, David, and thank you all for having us here today. As David said, Stacy and I will provide a brief overview of National Board Certification, although I know that some of you in the room could probably speak to this even better than we can, but we will give it our best shot, and then we'll turn it over to Kristen and Susan to speak about the incentive program specifically. So I will turn it to Stacy.
Thanks, Sarah. Thank you to the Commission. So today I wanted to share a little bit about the board certification process. National Board Certification was designed to develop, retain, and recognize accomplished teachers and to generate ongoing improvements in schools nationwide. The process is standards-based. We have 25 certificate areas based on student age ranges, developmental levels, and discipline. The process consists of 4 components. 1 component is a computer-based assessment, and 3 components are portfolio classroom-based assessments. The 4 components can be submitted in any order over 3 years, and candidates can complete from anywhere from 1 to 4 components per year. Each year, components are submitted in the spring, and teachers may choose to participate in candidate support programs leading up to that submission in the spring, and many programs meet regularly throughout the school year. National Board certification comes along with the wonderful benefit of having support. And we know that teachers who pursue certification benefit from both formal and informal support throughout the certification process. We refer to this as candidate support, and this may look like, for example, monthly or bi-monthly meetings with a facilitator. We've seen an uptick in investments and innovations across California following the funding for the incentive program. We saw examples of this by districts and unions, by open to all programs and statewide offerings. We know that teachers who engage in candidate support benefit from having assistance navigating a complex process, having opportunities for affinity spaces and for collaborative community, and they can garner outside perspectives and feedback that strengthen their analysis and teaching. These programs positively impact candidate success, and we hope to continue to see more programs grow and flourish to support accomplished teaching and learning. You may hear today from Commissioners Michael De La Torre and Dr. Davis about programs that they lead and support, but we're really excited to see this innovation and growth across the state. When teachers go through the process, whether they're in one of the support groups and programs that I just mentioned, or they're pursuing the process individually, they begin to see changes to their own teaching practice. We hear from teachers that going through the National Board process helps to hone their practice. And teachers can also attest to positive effects that the National Board certification process has on their classroom practice. That includes being able to make adjustments to their teaching and their lesson planning, gaining and deepening their content knowledge, and having meaningful and engaging and utilizing data to meet student needs. So teachers say over and over again that it's a powerful learning experience, whether they achieve certification or not. I'm going to turn it back over to Sarah to talk about a little bit of the research that we have on board certification.
So the changes in teachers' practice that Stacy just spoke about are evidenced in the research. So first and foremost, we know that board certified teachers have an impact on their students. Students of board certified teachers demonstrate additional learning. We have about 15 years worth of studies that consistently show these students demonstrate additional growth equivalent to 1 to 2 months of instruction. Evidence also shows that students of board certified teachers demonstrate evidence of deeper learning. And board certified teachers have an impact on their students, but they also have an impact on their colleagues and on the profession. Research shows that board certified teachers remain in the profession at higher rates than their colleagues. A recent study from here in California found that new teachers who are mentored by board certified teachers exhibit improvements in their practice and generate additional student learning. And particularly relevant to the program we're discussing today, studies show that targeted incentives in high-need schools can decrease the turnover of board-certified teachers in those schools, can increase the number of current teachers in the targeted schools who pursue and achieve board certification, and can encourage board-certified teachers to transfer into the targeted schools. And as Susan and Kristen will speak about, these programs can have a tremendous impact. So I'd like to share some statistics about the growth of board certification across the state over the last school year. These numbers encompass both people who participated in the new program and those who didn't, but the driver of the growth that I'm going to speak about is the new program. So last school year, the number of teachers pursuing board certification across California more than tripled compared to the year before. The number of teachers of color pursuing board certification quadrupled compared to the year before. And the share of teachers in California pursuing board certification who are teachers of color increased by 8% and significantly exceeded the national average. So again, I just want to reiterate that this growth was primarily driven by the program that CDE has been working to implement over the last year and a half. So to hear more about the specifics of that program and the impact, I'll turn it over to Kristen and Susan.
Oop, there we go. Good afternoon, commissioners. I'm Kristen Cruz-Allen from the California Department of Education. You all look really ready for lunch, so we'll wrap this up fast. But we're just really excited about this program that was reestablished in 2021. And for those of you that know the original program that kind of went away around 2009, this one's a little bit different. It's new and improved. We first have what we call the incentive program, in which after you are national board certified, you can earn $5,000 a year for 5 years if you're teaching at a high priority school. And we'll talk a little bit about what is considered a high priority school in a moment. As far as the 50% of your time at this school, or assigned to teach 50% of your time, it can include but isn't limited to a teacher leadership role as a peer assistance and review coach, mentor, or other teacher support provider that does not require an administrative credential. We post the list of high priority schools every year, so it can change, but once you're in the program, if for some reason your school goes off the list, you're kind of grandfathered in, you're in the program. The second piece of this new incentive program is what we call the subsidy award, and that's $2,500 to actually go through and get your national board certification, which is a really nice incentive for folks. And we hope the program at this time that sunsets in 2026, we hope that there'll be enough funding to ask for an extension of that so that people that are now entering our cohort 2 will be eligible for both the subsidy and the incentive program once they are they're certified. So as far as high priority schools, Assembly Bill 130 defined them as schools with 55% or more unduplicated count of students classified as English learner, foster youth, or eligible for free or reduced price lunch. And again, we have the site that you can go to see which schools are eligible on our high priority school list. Susan did a really great job of pinpointing where the high priority schools are in our state, and then our friends at National Board actually created some maps for us so we can kind of look at where they are centralized. So there's 6,725 high priority schools in California, according to 2021-22 CalPADS data. The blue on this map represents the lowest concentration of high priority schools, and then the color gradually shifts to red. And the really red color that you're seeing is the largest number of high priority schools in California. And now Dr. Susan Olson is going to discuss the two programs and how they are going thus far.
I am Susan Olson, and I am the education program consultant that is overseeing this National Board Incentive Program, which was started in July of 2021, and it was adopted by the California Department of Education in November. So this was actually less than a year of progress that we've made and that we're very proud to share with you today. So this next map is a map of the certification incentive awards that have been awarded. So as you can see, red then goes into blue. Blue is Los Angeles County. Los Angeles Unified has one of the best incentive programs that has been in operation for many years. And so as you can see, even though they are the largest population, they still are by far the area that has the largest number of National Board certified teachers. Our next map is showing our candidate subsidy awards. And so we have the pink that goes into blue. So if you can kind of see where we're awarding incentives and then where we're applying for the subsidy, we are getting more counties with, more teachers interested in awards. So for the first, I'm sorry, I should have mentioned, in the first year of the program, we awarded 1,712 incentive awards, and we awarded 1,423 subsidy awards. So we just wanted to share a little bit more about what we're now doing for this school year. And so for 2023, our applications are currently open in both programs, and they are open until January 4th at 4 p.m. For both the incentive and the subsidy programs. We've had an opportunity through this year to spend some more time doing outreach. So we've presented at the Equity Conference earlier this year in Indian Wells. And then we also just had our presentation approved for the induction conference in February, the California Induction Conference. And we've also been doing outreach to counties and districts where they have a high number of high priority schools and not necessarily a lot of National Board teachers, to try to get the word out, and also encouraging districts to really see this as a way of retaining teachers within their districts. We also spend a lot of time talking with districts about this being an opportunity for diversifying the teacher workforce as well. How can you help? Oh, this is Sarah. Go, Sarah.
Okay. Well, we would love your help in communicating about the program and the application periods both being open. As Susan and Kristen said, we are trying to reach all the teachers, including teachers that haven't always been made aware of these types of opportunities. So if you have you have access to them or a communication channel, we would definitely appreciate if you would share this information with them. Susan and Kristen have also been, as they mentioned, more than happy to host a webinar if there is a district with a lot of high priority schools that would like us to talk to them individually. We'd be more than happy to do that if you know of anyone. And we are announcing the newest class of MBCTs. Well, they will get their scores on Saturday. We'll celebrate them in January. But as they share their good news, if you have opportunities to amplify that, we would definitely appreciate it. And then maybe early in the new year into the spring, if there's an opportunity to recognize new NBCTs, that would certainly be appreciated by them. They're always happy to be recognized for the work that they put in. Stacy, did I leave anything out?
No, you have all the highlights. There's been a lot of opportunities on Twitter and Facebook that the California Department of Ed has been able to continue to amplify. So there's opportunities to tweet, retweet, and share messages of congratulations and excitement.
Yes, and we currently have, I looked it up right before we came up here, 927 new subsidy applicants and 103 incentive applicants. And the rule is once you get your scores and you determine if you are National Board certified, you can immediately apply for the incentive award. So we're expecting this weekend the uptick of applicants for the incentive to go up pretty quickly. So we're excited for our new candidates who hopefully will be National Board certified this weekend. And this last slide has our contact information for both National Board and also CDE. We run the program. National Board is to reach out to about, more information about the certification process, or you can reach out to us about the incentive and subsidy awards. We'll turn it back over to David.
So our next steps are that commission staff will be working with CDE and the National Board on ways to help preparation programs identify National Board certified teachers in their region, as these experienced teachers are potentially excellent mentors for candidates in both preliminary and induction programs. And we are happy to answer any questions commissioners may have.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for the presentation. We have to open to public comment first. Though I know we have a champion here. So we're now going to open for public comment. If there are members of the public that would like to give a presentation, please notify the meeting moderator by submitting a request card or clicking on the raise hand icon if participating by Zoom, or hitting *9 if you are by phone. Recording secretary, are there any public comments?
Yes, Shilpa Ram, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Good afternoon. My name is Shilpa Ram, and I'm a senior staff attorney at Public Advocates. Thank you so much to my colleagues for your wonderful presentation, and thank you to all of you for the tremendous work that you've done to move the National Board Incentive Grant and Subsidy Award forward. I had one question that I was hoping you could clarify, and it may be one that others listening also have. If a National Board certified teacher is interested in applying for the incentive grant, doesn't currently teach at a high priority school, but is interested in transferring to one, would they still be able to apply for the grant and express their intention to transfer if selected? This grant provides an incredible opportunity for National Board teachers currently teaching at high priority schools. And I wonder about those teachers who don't currently teach at one, but would be interested in finding one that's a good fit where their skills and mentorship may be much needed. Thank you for sharing any information you may have about what the incentive grant application process is for those teachers. If the option to transfer isn't currently available, could you discuss any plans that you may have to include it in the next application cycle? Thank you again for your tremendous work and for the opportunity to comment.
We'll keep going through the public comments, I believe, and then, but they would like, I'm sure Ms. Ram would love that question answered, and as she said, others may have it, but we'll just go through the full public comments. So hopefully you guys can retain it in case I can't. All right, recording secretary.
We have no additional.
Oh, well, that's easy. I thought we had a few. I thought we'd have a lot of Commissioner De La Torre is pummeling in. Yeah, I know. All right, so are you guys ready to answer that question?
Yes. So our high priority school list does change each year, and we have had that come up as an issue. As when they look at the high priority school list and they move school districts, can they move, or I'm not school districts, but schools to a high priority school? So we are working on the the dates of when the high priority school list is published. Right now, we go back based on the CalPADS data, which comes out in April and May, and a lot of times teachers make decisions about moving schools before that. So that is actually something that we're in the process of working out to see if we can use 2 school years in a row of lists instead of just that current list.
Okay. So we will close the public comment unless anyone else is called in during that time. So we're going to go ahead and close the public comment period. Do commissioners have any questions or comments on this item? And perhaps before Commissioner De La Torre gets in, I just have a follow-up question. So if I'm in a high priority school already and I'm national certified, do I still need to apply for the incentive?
Yes, it is an application process because we have to work with the school district to confirm that the teacher is in a high priority school. So they apply by January. So if you're in a high priority school right now and you're a national board teacher, you need to be on applying. And then the application closes January 4th. And then after that, we get in touch with the school district and they have to certify the application as well.
Okay.
And so they confirm with us that the teacher is working in a high priority school in a teaching position at least 50% of the time at that high priority school, which sometimes the itinerant teachers or a teacher who is a coach, they have to show evidence that they're spending at least 50% of their time in those high priority schools. So it's kind of a back and forth we have to do with the district.
And the national board knows who the certified teachers are. So if they're in a high priority school, there's, I assume, proactive outreach to these folks. Okay. And my last question before I get to Commissioner De La Torre is the cost for certification $2,500, and then, or what's the cost for national board certification?
The cost of certification is $475 per component. There's 4, so $1,900 initially. So there's actually an additional $600 available. So some of these candidates who get their scores and they didn't quite make it, they can retake, and they can use that additional $600 towards retakes.
Okay. All right, great. Now, drum roll, Commissioner De La Torre.
Thank you, Commissioner Martinez. So I'm just really excited. This has generated, of course, in my district, LA Unified, we have a lot of teachers that are board certified and a lot more that are coming up to be hopefully board certified tomorrow. And this has generated a lot of extra work for me. But thank you, because it's good work. And I've been working with the national board since 2000 when I was a candidate, and then on the board of directors with IDE and in the support network, supporting teachers, which I'm now coordinating. So this has made a tremendous impact on the student learning in my district. The research shows that board certified teachers have the most impact in BIPOC communities, students of low socioeconomic status. And so we have a lot of those in our district, and and our district is different from other districts nationwide because our board certified teachers are already at our high need schools, which is where they're making the most impact. So I'm really excited about that. A personal goal of mine was to increase the number of teachers pursuing national board that it was not accessible to them in the past. It started with the Finney grants from National Board to reach out to low socioeconomic status educators. A lot of our teachers can't afford this high stakes assessment. It is voluntary, so they have to pay for it out of pocket. But with this incentive, or the subsidy, which I took advantage of when I was a candidate the first time around, and I also received the incentive when I certified. So if it hadn't been for that, I probably still would have pursued, but this really made it a lot more accessible for me personally, and for a lot of other teachers in my district. But we've seen a high number of teachers of color, teachers that single parents, teachers that have strained financial resources because they're paying back their student loans, and coupled with the change that National Board made in its policy last year to allow first-year teachers to pursue as long as they certified by the time they had at least 3 years of successful teaching service. That has just opened up the gates for so many more teachers to attempt. And I really like that they can take it over 3 years' time, because I was forced to take all of my components in 1 year There were no options for me, and that was tough. It's very rigorous. I'm not going to lie. It's a hard process. My colleague, Commissioner Davis, knows it's very rigorous, but it's very worthwhile. Harvard's SDP study that focused specifically on our LAUSD board certified teachers did find that our students made 2 months of additional progress in math and 1 month of additional progress in language arts just by having a board certified teacher. And other studies come through on a regular basis showing the same information. So I'm really excited about all that. It is a lot of extra work, but luckily, thanks to the pandemic, I have my program moved online so I can just keep hiring more facilitators. And our board certified teachers do serve as mentors for our new teachers in our district. Our district has done a really good job about capitalizing on the expertise of our board certified teachers, tapping into their expertise to mentor other teachers on several other tasks. So we have 10 different tasks that our board certified teachers are eligible to pursue for a 15% pay raise above their base pay, which is really nice. In addition to $25,000 from the state now. So it's a nice bump, nice recognition for the hard job that teaching is. I'm just really excited. And I'd like to see that this continues in additional years because I have seen the growth in my district. A few years ago was the first year, maybe I think 3 years ago, that my BIPOC educators certified at a higher rate than non-BIPOC educators in LA Unified. So for the past 3 years, we've had more teachers of color become board certified teachers than non-board teachers of color. So we've been diversifying our board certified teachers in our district, but that is not typical for the nation. So I'm really excited to see this change. And I think a lot of it has to do with the incentives available and the subsidies. So I would really love to see this continue beyond the 5-year window. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you. Commissioner, I think Commissioner Davis, then Commissioner Simmons, and then Commissioner Hartwick.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Stacy, Kristen, Susan, Sarah. I wanted to make sure I got everybody's names right because I've worked with all 4 of you in other capacities before, and echoing what Commissioner Delatorre just eloquently stated for us, that there's such a tremendous opportunity here. And I think it was your 4th or 5th slide that showed how we provide support throughout the state. And I do 2 of the 3. Mr. Delatorre does the first, I do the latter. I work with the Stanford National Board Resource Center. And so we provide candidate support to all candidates who come through Stanford. And because we're on Zoom, we are a national support provider, not just in the state of California. So I have hundreds and hundreds of candidates that I work with on a regular basis to help them to certify. But the bread and butter is, again, like I started to talk about yesterday, about our BIPOC cohorts. That was something that a few of us started to do for free. We just needed to have that space for folks because we were finding at Stanford that we'd have a very diverse group, just like this represented in the room on the first day of the program. And then by the 3rd day of the program, all of the people of color had disappeared from the room. And so when asked why that was happening, many of the teachers, especially from Oakland, because we did some surveying, mentioned that Stanford was an intimidating space and they didn't want to come onto campus because it felt like it was not a place for them because there are there's a very huge lack of representation on campus for people of color. So it can be a little daunting and intimidating for folks who are not used to, prevailing in those spaces. So what we did was we created a safe space, and that morphed into working with CTA NEA to get granted money so that we can provide those supports for our BIPOC candidates. And in addition to what's happening in Southern California, we were able to triple that capacity and triple those applications. And because of and we're working on our 2nd year of that BIPOC grant and the 2nd year of having those facilitated groups, that we had so many people apply this time, we started a 3rd cohort group at UCLA because we had such a demand in Southern California. Even though LA Unified has the program, there were candidates who wanted to take advantage of the program that CTA and NEA offered. And piggybacking on what Susan said about getting the word out and getting the conferences. I'll be presenting at the Good Teaching Conference South. I will be on the road with NEA for part of the spring to really promote this idea across the United States. So I'll need some of that support material so that I can pass it out. But just really talking about the tremendous learning gains of our most accomplished educators in California. And as I said yesterday, our BIPOC educators in our programs with our facilitated programs are the blueprint for which Stanford and UCLA are developing their programs for everyone else. And so we're the center because we were there first, right? And then the support programs are being built around the BIPOC cohort groups. But I wanted to talk just a little bit, if I could, about what that BIPOC group does on top of national board stuff. And I realize that we are butting up against lunchtime, so I'll make it brief. So
you might want to table that fallacy around lunchtime.
Okay, but I want to say that we provide a comfortable, safe space for everyone. Okay, and so that we try to make everyone's thinking valued. And that's something in that huge space of Stanford that we aren't always able to provide at Stanford itself, because we may have 200 candidates in this huge Zoom space now. And then we fish people off into breakout rooms, and these breakout rooms can be 20 or 30 candidates. And if you're that one person of color in the room and you raise your hand, it's not always seen. And not that they're being ignored on purpose, but you just have so many folks, you can't get your evidence. You can't get your written commentary looked at. You can't get your videos looked at, those kinds of things. So we provide a space for that exclusively for these candidates who are selected for our program. On top of that, during our first session, even though it was on Zoom, we felt like we found our group, our long lost family members. We came together and we discovered that sometimes I'm the only Asian woman in this district, or I'm the only Black man who works in our district or at my school site. And oftentimes people have these preconceived notions or stereotypes in their minds about what kind of teacher you are, because as an accomplished teacher, you're not sitting in the staff room gossiping about children and other staff members. You're really into the work of being a teacher. So often you're perceived as a snob, you know. So helping people work through these kinds of issues that come up at work, where people are othering them and making them feel bad for just being a great teacher, is part of what we do in our BIPOC space. The other thing we do is we support people through the trials and tribulations of their family lives, their student lives, through their triumphs and their successes. And we know that we're all teachers of color. We have that in common. So we have a common way of supporting each other. And I'm telling you, there have been a lot of watershed moments in these meetings. And I'm telling you, this is a blood sport. Education is a blood sport. I keep going back to that because we do a lot of that, but we're also supporting people who are really ill, gravely ill, people with heart conditions and compromised immune systems and the like, who try their best to get to these Zoom sessions because they know the value of how National Board and the self-reflective process transforms them as an educator, transforms them, and they can see that transformation in the learning gains from their students. They can see that from the community members, the parents, and their colleagues from time to time there too. So the last thing I want to say is we celebrate each other and our triumphs, and tomorrow is going to be a great day. And I know a lot of my candidates are going to certify because they have finished. And one other thing I want to say about this talented group of educators is that most of our BIPOC candidates have decided to do all 4 components in 1 year, taking on that bold step where you had to do that in the box. I remember them talking about that, but have boldly decided, on top of all the committees and the coaching and the teaching and the family and everything else, I'm going to do all of this painstaking work all in 1 year. And many of my our facilitated groups candidates last year certified in the first year, and this is the second year, so we're hoping for a similar success. Thank you very much. And thank you for what you all are doing. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Simmons.
Okay, my question is, what happens if I sign up, I'm approved, I'm ready to go, and my school falls off of the high priority school list? And the reason why I ask that is because California is, I believe, the only state in the nation that has universal free meals for all students now. And as a result of that, there is less impetus for parents to fill in the forms for free and reduced lunch because it's free anyway. So I know some of my schools look like suddenly the income level at that school has jumped, when in fact, it's merely that parents who are extremely busy don't take the time to fill out the forms showing that they are free and reduced eligible. So could you tell us what happens?
So there's a couple of things going on here. The first is once they're approved, they stay in if they're in that same school over the course of those years. We don't go back and check to see if their school is still on the list. So once they're approved to receive the incentive or the subsidy, it's grandfathered along as long as they stay in that same school. But yeah, that issue is coming up a lot in a lot of our sessions around, well, all of my students have free and reduced price meals. And unfortunately, that's a federal designation. And yes, we're going to come across that, I think. And there's the Golden State Teacher Program is also using this as a requirement to be eligible for that award for our new teacher candidates. And I think we're going to have to look at some other way to determine poverty levels for students, because that's all that we have right now. So I think it's a much bigger issue than just our program.
Great question. So I think it was Commissioner Hartwig and then, yes, Commissioner Jackson.
Thank you so much for this presentation. It's always really exciting to hear about innovative and successful programs. I understand this certification, and sounds like an incentive was around before.
I know, I feel like we get to give the good news.
But it's very exciting. And I'm particularly excited because we're, of course, at this table in the CDE across the state incredibly concerned about our teacher shortage and administrator shortage problem. And we have a good number of opportunities to talk about on this commission to talk about the pipeline into teaching, but we don't have that many opportunities to talk about retention within our teacher community, which is, as we know from research and data, a huge reason why we have a teacher shortage, right? And so I just wanted to recognize that this is exciting to me as one small piece of the fabric of how do we retain our wonderful teachers. And having something like this where it's provides a prestigious and worthwhile and valuable career step is just so important. And so that it can be for someone where they're coming into the profession and maybe they decide right away that they want to do it, or then maybe they see that down the line as something that could enhance their status, their knowledge, their income. All of those things are great. And so I just wanted to recognize how, I think anything that we as a board can do to support retention programs is important. And I also wanted to recognize and support the idea of leveraging our national board teachers for the ripple effects that they have on districts. And for Commissioner De La Torre talked about those ripple effects that are going on in LA Unified. And I'm sure Commissioner Davis has many tales of the effects that those have had in other school districts. And so anything that we can do to make sure that we are exploiting our wonderful board certified teachers, I think is great. And then a request, which I'm sure is already in the works, but it is so useful for us to have as detailed data collected over time about participants in particular programs. I know this is the first year, but I definitely imagine that as much data is being collected as possible. And as this goes forward, we'll be able to track a bit more retention of these teachers, as well as impacts on, on others in the district. And so I look forward as the years go forward to learning more and more about what the impact has been. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Jackson and then Commissioner Francois.
Yes, I just want to put in a bold emphasis on the amount of work that happened. This was funded by the legislature, and then my colleague, with the support of my manager and our division director, just hit the ground running on this. And so that first year was like a whirlwind to get this up and running. And so I want everyone out there to know that this program is so successful, so exciting and everything because of the hard work that goes on within the department that, a lot of times people just take it for granted. Oh, boof, there's the money and you got something going, but there is just, work behind this. And the partnership that I've seen is just amazing with the national board, Sarah and Stacy. Yes, I knew it was two S's and I was like grabbing for it.
Just
And
play chair zone. Sloan.
Yeah, and we established, yes, I have the Chair Sloan syndrome there. We established a relationship with them back in 2018, and at that time they were lobbying the ledge to make this happen. And once it did happen, that relationship was there, and then we could just move on from there. But I really love that you have the program has established these relationships with LA Unified, with Stanford, the outreach that my colleagues are doing out there to make sure that the word gets out there. The fact that they're here to make sure you get the word out there. I know everybody is excited about this program, and hopefully this is just the beginning, that this keeps going, because I remember being the president of United Teachers of Richmond, going to all the school board meetings, and one school board meeting, they honored a national board teacher. One, I didn't even know what it was. And there she was getting honored. I didn't know she was, now I know what process she went through. And it was like, wow, who is this? And why don't we all know about this? And I know it has been intimidating for educators of color to really see that as that possibility for them. They saw it probably as something others do, and the fact that we're saying it out loud, that no, this is for all educators, especially educators of color, and that we're leading in California. We know what our student population looks like. We want to match it. We talk about diversifying the workforce. This is a way that we're doing that. And my big area, since I start working at the department and in the teacher and leader policy office, was about retention. Because everyone was like, we've got great recruitment programs and we've got great incentive to bring people in the profession. But I was one of those teachers often in my 34 years, one, African-American teacher on the staff, and what that means, and we all, like Commissioner Davis talked about, it's real, the issues. And I didn't really have the cohort to talk about it. I just kind of, talk to my loved ones or whatever, but this is a piece of it. You want to retain the educators. You just don't want to bring them into the profession and say, okay, good luck, and everything. So I think that this program is such a model to make sure that we do retain, and we are retaining educators for our students that need the best, the greatest educators. And that's what I love about this program. So I wanted to make sure that my colleagues, that they took this, they ran with it, and they're going to continue to make this the best program.
Really appreciate that perspective, Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Francois?
There's so much I love about this program too. And I will say that at the end of every commission meeting after 2 days, I think to myself, what in the last 2 days brought you joy? And some days I don't have an answer to that question. But I will tell you, this item is going to be at the top of my list. From top to bottom, I have so much gratitude for the staff for pulling this together, including the PowerPoint presentation with the highlights. I love seeing the highlights. I'm just filled with gratitude to my commission colleagues who are doing this work on the ground. You're not just talking about it, but you're actually engaging it. I'm filled with gratitude for the CDE's Teacher and Leader Policy Office. Their investment matters for so many teachers. And yeah, it's going to result in high levels of retention and also this kind of sense of belonging and self-efficacy that I think some teachers, they never feel in their career. They're always chasing it, but they never actually feel it. And then as I was listening to the presentation, and thank you, Chris, for mentioning UCLA, CenterX has had a National Board of Professional Teaching Standards project for a long time. And I am able to stop in on Saturdays every now and then. That was pre-pandemic, of course, to just kind of check in on what they're doing and feel the energy and whatnot. And what I am most impressed about that support group is that they become a real community of practice that lasts much longer than their time to certification. Is it called certification? Okay, till their time to certification. And then they will come back and they will be in community with the new candidates, right? So we're really changing the way particularly veteran teachers are able to re-engage in their work in meaningful ways and give back and stay energized in the profession. And that's really exciting to me. So I'm going to just give a shout out to Erin Powers, who is the director of our National Board of Professional Teaching Standards project at UCLA. And she was the one that came to me and said, Anna Marie, we're going to figure out how to make this work for BIPOC students. And she said it as though she wasn't asking for permission. She was telling me this is what we are going to do. And to hear that it's actually happening, it makes my heart sing. So thank you all around. I do have one question though. I have been around long enough to remember the last iteration of National Board. And to your point about being able to get back to the profession and preliminary programs, et cetera, I remember the candidates not wanting to sign up to be mentor teachers at that time because they would say, but being a mentor teacher is not going to count. I have no idea what that means. I'm sure you know, or perhaps know what that means. But I just want to know, is that resolved under the new iteration? I don't know what it counts for. You're shaking your head no.
Yeah, go ahead. That's not part of our particular.
I can address
purview.
that. So the thing is that you have to be teaching at least 50% of the time. So for example, I'm board certified. It's the same with my bargaining unit with my district. Because I left the classroom to run this program, I am not eligible for any of the incentives. So I gave up the incentives to do this work. And so if teachers leave the classroom, if it's any type of out of the classroom position where they're coaching or having an impact.
That has changed. So,
but they have to teach.
But they have, if they're a teacher coach or they're in a position classified as a teaching assignment, so that includes coaches and mentors, What we ask is that they have their supervisors let us know that they're spending at least 50% of their time supporting teachers in high priority schools. So that has changed.
Oh, because when I looked at the website, it says students, 50% of the time.
Right. Yeah. So there is
Students.
one, actually, and maybe we need to look at our website, but it says for purposes of these awards, assigned to teach may include, but is not limited to, a teacher leadership role as a peer assistance and review coach, mentor, or other teacher support provider if the position does not require an admin credential. And so because of that high priority school piece of it, we do need their supervisors to verify that they're actually going into high priority schools and working with those teachers, but they do not have to be the teacher of record in those classrooms.
But if you look at the actual application somewhere down the line, it mentions at one place that at least 50% teaching students.
Okay.
Yes. So if that
We'll look at that.
needs to be changed, because I know that my supervisor will not authorize it. They'll be like, well, it says right here.
Yeah. So that has been changed for this program.
Okay, I see another comment, and then also I'll need to close the commissioner comments at some point, and I have to open it back up to the public comment because we end up having a public comment. So Commissioner Davis.
It's just one last response to Commissioner Francois. Thank you. So this incentive is offered to teachers in high priority schools, and a lot of us have in our bargaining, in our contracts, in our CBAs, in our LEAs, a pay boost to go with it. So there's a little incentive, but not every district in California has that. So in my district, for example, we offer a 3% pay bump if you become national board certified. And that was partially my motivation for going through the process, because I've been maxed out on the salary schedule for a long time, right? And so this was something else. Again, I think someone else mentioned about veteran teachers being able to not only get re-engaged, re-energized, but also have an opportunity to give back. So in that mentor piece, a lot of the folks involved, especially in the BIPOC cohorts, I pull them back in because they're paying it forward. They don't get paid to help other candidates with moving along the spectrum of certification. And it's interesting, by the way, just a side note on Saturday that you mentioned the Saturday group, because I had a meeting with the UCLA folks 5 minutes before driving here to this meeting on Wednesday. So it's all a very closed but huge community of folks. Thank you.
Thank you for providing that perspective. Without seeing any other comments.
Super important. One last comment. I just want to reiterate that it wasn't mentioned, it hasn't been mentioned, but when National Board was designed, it was a two-pronged program. So yes, it was to identify accomplished teachers, but because it was designed by teachers for teachers, the second very important part that we snuck in there was professional development. So all teachers that pursue National Board, whether or not they certify, do come out the other end a better teacher. And so I just wanted to mention that. Also, it is standards based, so that means that absolutely all teachers can pursue and achieve, because nobody has to fail for you to succeed.
All right, standards.
All teachers that meet the standards are able to become a board certified teacher as long as they pursue. And my experience has been that even those teachers who don't achieve it the first time, if they stick to it, their score steadily increases until the point when they become a board certified teacher.
Right, because it's standards and performance based, right?
Yes,
right.
Absolutely.
And
Okay, thank you.
And I also want to mention counselors and librarians and our coaches are also under that umbrella of teachers. When Mr. De La Torre and I refer to the teachers who are being certified, all of those folks can pursue certification as well.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the commissioner comments and reopen for public comment. Madam Secretary, do we have a public comment?
Yes, we do. Adam Ibrahim, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
If you're talking, we cannot hear you. Please unmute.
He is on mute, but I don't know why we can't hear him.
It seems like you're on mute still. No, you're not on mute. And
can you hear me
you're
okay?
unmuted. There we go.
Hi, how are you doing? My name is Adam Ibrahim. I am with the California Teachers Association, and I just wanted to share how grateful we are for the National Board Incentive Program. You know, a lot of the professional learning that our members receive is decided by other groups. It's decided, you know, based on the needs of institutions without necessarily direct inquiry to the needs of the teachers. And so the National Board Incentive Program, in that it provides a direct payment to teachers for them to pursue professional learning of their own volition, we feel is just such a fantastic thing. We are also just incredibly supportive of the National Board program in its by teacher for teacher design. And you know, I think that what the commissioners have seen and heard here is that it also invites a really powerful cross-agency, cross-department, cross-institution collaboration around the right things, around diversifying the teaching profession, around engaging educators as leaders in their own learning and moving their profession forward for the students in their classrooms. We are also really appreciative of the focus on the high priority schools and making sure that, you know, that we are providing incentives directly to educators to improve themselves, to improve their skills, and to apply those in the schools and districts that need it most. So just wanted to applaud all the great work of the California Department of Education, of the Commission, of the commissioners, and the National Board for Professional Teaching Standards, NEA, and just applaud the work of our members in really sort of taking this, picking it up and moving it forward. So thank you all.
Thank you for your public comments. Are there any other public comments, Madam Secretary? Okay, I'm going to close the public comment period. And as you all know, this was an information item only, so no action is required. So I want to thank Mr. DeGear and Ms. Olson and everyone for everything our public comment just said about the cross-institution, cross-organization, cross-agency work. And as you can see, it brings the commission a lot of joy. So thank you for your hard work. And thank you to all the teachers who do National Board for the hard work that they put into this. So thank all of you.